In the dead of night, at 3 a.m., 16-year-old Yudo Hatano sits before his computer, engrossed in a Gal game. He muses that while some people replay games they've already cleared, he finds himself drawn to this one. The thought of attending a school like the one in the game seems fun. Finally, he decides it's time to head to bed. He gazes at the game's title screen, After School Flairist, one last time before turning in for the night. The quiet of the night gives way to the piercing beep of an alarm clock. The display reads 7 a.m. A young man with two-toned hair sits up in bed, groggily reaching over to silence the alarm. He sighs, realizing it's already morning and thinking that going to school is a drag. As he walks past a mirror, his own reflection catches his eye, causing him to stop in confusion. His confusion turns to shock as he stares at the unfamiliar face. He wonders if this is truly him, then recoils, demanding to know who this person is. Suddenly, a flicker of recognition crosses his face. He knows those evil-looking features. The realization hits him like a lightning bolt. He points a trembling finger at his reflection, shouting that it's Kanji Aku, the villainous character from the game Gofure. He stands in the middle of the room, arms crossed, trying to piece it all together. If he is indeed Kanji Aku, and this is his room, he can only come to one conclusion. He has somehow entered the world of Gofure. As he grapples with this thought, his phone lights up. An application called Wei, short for Who Are You, has appeared. He recognizes it as the game's character ability list. With a sense of dread, he wonders what Kanji Aku's stats could possibly be. He opens the app to find Kanji Aku's profile. His life bar is full, but his stats for communication, charm, intelligence, athleticism, and techniques are all disastrously low. The truth crashes down on him. This is real, and his new life is completely trash. He collapses to the floor in despair. He fully accepted his new reality. He had been reincarnated as Kanji Aku. Tapping his phone, he decided to check the tips section for guidance. The tips list provided hints for conquering characters, which would update according to his progress. It offered cryptic advice like don't give up, the promised spot, and the only way to end things is to conquer them. He also noted his life stat was full at 100 out of 100. A sudden realization struck him with excitement. If this was a school-based game, it meant he would get to wear the official school uniform. His mind raced as he recalled the game's heroines. The thought that those very girls were real and attending this school was exhilarating. If he could meet them, he could conquer them just like in the game. He began to fantasize, imagining a girl with dark hair and a butterfly clip offering to feed him. He pictured another letting him rest his head on her lap. His fantasy continued, envisioning himself holding hands with a cheerful girl with her hair in twin buns. He even dared to imagine sharing a kiss with another of the heroines. The possibilities seemed endless. He could make them all his wives. With this newfound motivation, the idea of going to school had suddenly become incredibly exciting. Sometime later, now dressed in a school uniform, he stood before an apartment door. The nameplate read Aku, confirming that this was not his family's home, but his new one. Walking down the street, he glanced at a signpost. The address, Sunagakaka 3-17, was exactly the same as it was in the game, solidifying his place in this new world. He stood in awe, the reality of his situation sinking in as he gazed upon the familiar streets. This was, without a doubt, the world of the game. Before him stood the entrance to Suzumigakaka High School. As he approached the school gates, his eyes fell upon a girl with striking, long dark hair. A flicker of recognition sparked within him. He wondered if it could possibly be Akira. His heart leaped. It was her, in the flesh, Akira Tamasada, known for being the most difficult heroine to conquer in the entire game. The confirmation sent a thrill of excitement through him. His excitement was immediately crushed when he checked her status on his phone. Her affection level was already at a staggering -25. Before he could even react, Akira walked past him with a dismissive huff, not even sparing him a glance. He worried that his chance to even speak with her was already gone. He quickly consulted the tips section on his phone. It identified her as the goddess at the entrance and gave a stark warning. Confessing I love you at first sight would result in being immediately killed. Despite the ominous advice, he couldn't help but notice how cute she was up close. Just then, she turned to face him, her expression unreadable. Aku, morning, she said. He instantly recognized the moment. This was a scripted event. The world seemed to pause as three distinct choices materialized before his eyes. Greet her back, compliment her, or ignore her completely. It was a classic dialogue choice from the game. He glanced around and confirmed it. Everyone else was frozen in place. This game-like feature was undeniably real. He understood that time would not move forward until he made a decision. Opting for the safest route, he simply replied, morning. Instantly, the world returned to normal. A bird took flight, and the ambient sounds of the schoolyard resumed. His world shatters in an instant. As he stands on the street, Akira Tamasada's voice cuts through the air, screaming his name, Aku, and a desperate warning to watch out. He turns, confused, only to see the massive grille of a truck bearing down on him. There's no time to react. The vehicle slams into him with brutal force, sending his body flying. A flash of impact, then nothing but darkness. He jolts awake with a scream, sitting bolt upright in his bed. Clutching his chest, his mind reels with the terrifying memory. He was sure he just died. As his breathing steadies, he stares at his hand, contemplating the vision. It felt far too realistic for a dream. He reasons that if he, as Kanji Aku, had truly died in an accident, his consciousness should have returned to his original body, that of Yudo Hitano. The fact that he remains in this room, in this body, confirms his fear. It wasn't a dream. He glances at his phone, which displays a status screen for Kanji Aku. His life bar has visibly depleted, now showing 90 out of 100. A notification confirms it. His life has decreased. Now outside and walking down the street, he scrolls through a tips section on his phone. It's filled with a list of cryptic, unhelpful phrases like "don't give up" and "the spot of the promise." His thoughts are interrupted by a familiar sight. The same man walking the same fluffy dog as before. A chilling realization dawns on him. It's the same as earlier. This means that what comes next is his arrival at the school gate. And just as he anticipates, Akira Tomasada approaches him. Her expression unreadable. She greets him with the same words as before. "Morning, Aku." Her greeting once again freezes time, presenting him with the very same set of choices. He knew it. He has to choose from these options all over again, now fully aware of the fatal consequences of a wrong answer. He grapples with the memory of his death. Was it a coincidence, or does a wrong choice guarantee a fatal outcome? He realizes he must confirm it for himself, to understand the rules of this new reality as the morning begins anew. His thoughts are shattered by a horrifying vision. Another student, frozen in place as a truck barrels towards him. He and Akira Tomasada cry out in terror, a stark reminder of the ever-present threat of death. The vision fades, leaving him huddled in bed. He accepts the grim truth. This is not a dream. When he chooses the wrong option as the villain, he dies. A status bar materializes, showing his remaining life at a diminished 80 out of 100. He considers his predicament logically. The fact that choosing the first option leads to failure must mean one of the other options is correct. He concludes that the only way to break free from this loop is to conquer the choices presented to him. With this new resolve, time rewinds. He finds himself once again at the school gate, facing Akira. He vows not to fail this time, as the same three options appear before him. A simple greeting, a compliment, or ignoring her. He decides on his approach. If the first option was wrong, then the second must be the correct path. He takes a breath and begins to speak, choosing the compliment. Putting on a confident smile, he delivers the line smoothly, telling Akira she's as pretty as ever this morning. The compliment hangs in the air for only a moment before a hooded figure appears from behind, grabbing him. The stranger's voice is laced with contempt, calling him a creep. Before he can react, a sharp, searing pain erupts in his back. The hooded man has stabbed him. He collapses to the pavement. Akira rushes to his side, cradling his head in her lap and desperately pleading for Aku to hold on. He awakens with a scream, the phantom pain still fresh. His life force has diminished, now reading 70 out of 100. Clutching his chest, he laments this terrible way to die, cursing the game. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. It was meant to be a story about meeting heroines, not a terrifying, painful ordeal. He desperately wants to return to his own world. He catches his breath, the panic subsiding into contemplation. The game's premise was simple. Get close to the heroines, flirt with them, and so on. A straightforward path. This line of thought sparks a sudden, chilling realization. A wide, knowing grin spreads across his face as the truth dawns on him. He understands now. He isn't playing from the perspective of the protagonist. He is playing as Kanji Aku, the villain. The world solidifies around him once more. He is at school, where Akira Tomasada greets him with a simple, "Morning, Aku." The name confirms his new reality. So that's what this means. His gaze hardens with grim determination. He now believes there's only one viable option for him as the villain. A choice materializes before him. Without hesitation, his finger moves to the third option. Ignore her. He walks past her without a word, internally questioning the lack of an immediate reaction or consequence. Then it clicks. This is a choice the protagonist would never make. Akira speaks up, her tone measured. She states that it wouldn't hurt him to offer a greeting, clarifying that she isn't addressing him because she wants to, but for another reason entirely. She explains that as a member of the discipline committee, she is required to do this. Her demeanor is cold, but Yudo perceives this as a perfect setup for her character. He muses that once her affection level increases, this coldness will surely blossom into sweetness. He also reminds himself that there are other heroines besides Akira Tomasada. His thoughts turn to the others. Yua Minamoto, the bubbly childhood friend, and Mikamo Hawaii, the prim and proper student council president type. The game's full cast of heroines comes to mind. He then lays his eyes upon another of the game's key figures, Elena Hiriazumi, the half-Japanese, blonde tsundere. Seeing the heroines in person, a sense of awe washes over him. In addition to Akira Tomasada, four other heroines populate this very classroom, creating a nexus for the game's central plotlines. And then, the protagonist of the game himself appears, Shun Ogasawara. Yudo observes him, realizing that reality is already diverging from the game's script. Shun is far more popular than he was supposed to be. As he watches, two choices materialize before him. Make a snide remark about Shun's gloomy appearance, or simply ignore him. He recognizes this moment instantly. This is the scene where the villain, Kanji Aku, is meant to antagonize the protagonist with sharp words. The reason he was thrust into this world as Kanji Aku remains a complete mystery to him. But with a sharp, confident grin, he He embraces his role and selects the antagonistic option, internally sneering at the protagonist's supposedly gloomy demeanor. His resolve hardens into a single, unwavering purpose. He will become a villain, or do whatever else is necessary to survive. After school, a young man clenches his fist with determination. He reflects that while he has nothing special going for him, he possesses knowledge that no one else does. Believing he has chosen the right path, he resolves to put his plan into action. He steps up to the door of classroom to a confident smile on his face. Waving, he calls out to the students inside, asking to borrow their attention for a moment. His attempt is met with complete indifference. Yua Minamoto cheers excitedly. Mikamo Hawaii is absorbed in her phone, and Elena Hiriazumi is lost in a book. He tries to get their attention, but they utterly ignore him. Sighing in defeat, he realizes it's no use. His way stats are simply too low, unlike Shun's, making it impossible for him to even have a conversation with them. Across the room, Akira Tomasada sits quietly at her desk. His focus shifts to her. He remembers that Akira greeted him that morning, despite his low stats. A thought occurs to him. If events follow the game's plot, he might just have a chance with her. Deciding to act on this new strategy, he walks over to Akira's desk and bluntly asks, "Say, Tomasada, you like him, don't you?" She jumps, startled by his sudden question. Looking up in surprise, she defensively asks who he could possibly mean by him. She quickly composes herself, closing her eyes and dismissing his words. She insists that she is fair to everyone, even to delinquents. He presses his point, noting that she won't specify who he is. He then reveals his observation. She had a sad look on her face when she glanced over at Shun Ogasawara laughing with the other girls. Her eyes widen in shock at being found out. The truth of Akira Tomasada's situation is revealed. Deemed the hardest character to conquer, she has no experience with love. She can only watch from a distance as Shun, the protagonist she secretly loves, flirts with other heroines. Her own trust issues prevent her from being honest with herself and pursuing him. She averted her gaze, a faint blush on her cheeks, as he continued his verbal assault. He knew her secret. He claimed the pain of unrequited love. With a sharp tone, she insisted it was none of his concern. His words, however, were a calculated move. Internally, he noted with satisfaction that his way had finally presented him with a set of choices. The interface revealed a surprising development. His affection level with Akira Tomasada had risen to 5. He was shocked, realizing his points had climbed out of the negative, and wondered if their tense conversation was the cause. This shift in affection presented him with a clear path forward. An image of Shun Ogasawara materialized in his mind, representing the typical hero's choice to listen to her worries. But Yudo scoffed at the idea, declaring he was not that kind of protagonist, and that Ogasawara could simply sit back and watch. With his decision made, he let out a sigh of relief, confident he hadn't made a mistake. As Ogasawara walked away down the hall, Yudo turned to leave as well. He had only taken a few steps when a desperate voice cut through the hallway. Akira, her composure broken, shouted for him to wait. He stopped and turned. She stood before him, gathering her courage, and asked if they could speak after school. Unfazed, Yudo correctly deduced the topic of conversation would be Ogasawara. Her blush deepened as she quietly confirmed his assumption. He watched her reaction, a simple thought crossing his mind. She was cute. Her confirmation was tinged with sadness, her mind drifting to an image of a smiling Shun Ogasawara. She recalled her own struggles, her inability to express her feelings, her awkwardness in conversation, and the painful realization that she could never become his favorite. Her unspoken sorrow hung in the air between them. Yudo lowered his head, his expression hidden, and spoke with quiet empathy. "That's painful, isn't it?" He covers his face, letting out a loud sob. Akira Tomasada stares at him, her expression one of pure annoyance, as she asks why on earth he is crying. Through his tears, he explains that this is all going according to the plot, and hearing his favorite character say those words in front of him made him emotional. Seeing this, Akira offers him a handkerchief, wondering to herself why she ever confided her worries in him. As she extends the handkerchief towards him in the hallway, he looks up, surprised, and asks if she is sure. She replies that she doesn't mind. Akira gives a gentle, reassuring smile. Flustered, he promises to wash it and give it back, but she simply chuckles and tells him not to worry, remarking that his behavior isn't like him. His mind shifts to the game's logic. He knows Ogasawara is a great guy, the type who can't leave people in trouble alone. This knowledge, gained from having played the game, solidifies his choice. He must save her. Based on this, he tells Akira that her situation feels painful precisely because of Ogasawara's goodness. He then bluntly points out that she is awkward, especially around the other girls, which would make any direct approach difficult. Akira looks down, considering his words. She concedes that it seems to be true for Ogasawara, but then adds that it's clear he has been observing her very well, too. She looks up at him, surprised by her own realization, and asks, "What?" He meets her gaze with a confident smile, affirming that of course he has. His internal monologue continues, assessing the situation strategically. From her current point of view, he thinks it would be difficult for her to make the protagonist fall for her. A list of plans appears in his mind. He dismisses the skimpy uniform plan as something that would cause her affection level to plummet. The homely appeal with lunchboxes is also a non-starter, as Akira is bad at cooking, though he finds her hard-working nature endearing. This leaves only one option, He declares they will go for a plan to intensely attract Shun's attention by having her pull through with cold behavior. He listens as Akira expresses confusion, stating that she already treats Ogasawara coldly. A wave of panic washes over him as he realizes his miscalculation. Before he can react, Akira's voice cuts through his thoughts, urgently warning him to look behind him. Whipping around, he sees the hooded figure from before lunging at him. A terrible premonition grips him just as a sharp pain erupts through his body. The world fades back into focus. He finds himself in bed, a dull ache radiating from his side. He clutches the wound, wondering why he had to be stabbed yet again. His phone screen confirms his fears. His life force has dropped to 50 out of 100, a loss of 20 points, double what he expected. The thought of his life reaching 0 sent a chill down his spine. With renewed determination, he clenches his fist, swearing to himself that he will not make another mistake. The world rewinds, offering him another chance. Returned to the moment of decision, he dismisses his previous choice. The correct path, he now believes, is the second option, the homely appeal with Lunchbox's plan. With a burst of confidence, he declares that the way to a boy's heart is through his stomach. She will make lunchboxes for Shun and win him over with a domestic charm. His enthusiasm is met with doubt. Akira protests, admitting she has almost no cooking experience and fears Shun will only mock her efforts. He quickly dismisses her concerns, explaining that perfection isn't the goal. The important thing, he insists, is the effort she puts in, even if the results aren't perfect. Just as before, the idyllic moment is shattered. The hooded assailant reappears, screaming curses at them for enjoying their youth as he charges forward, weapon raised. Spotting the danger, Yudo yells a warning to Akira and shoves her out of the path of the attack. He takes the full force of the blow himself. Blood erupts from his mouth as the weapon finds its mark. As he collapses, Akira screams his name in horror. His last coherent thought is one of disbelief. How could an attacker get through the school's security? Once more, time reverses. The menu of choices appears before him again, the previous 2 attempts having ended in failure. It becomes clear that the only remaining option is the skimpy uniform plan. His expression shifts, a manic intensity in his eyes. He explains the final strategy. She must appeal to Shun by showing off her feminine charms, altering her uniform to be more revealing. His life force has dwindled to 30, adding a desperate edge to his voice. Akira is taken aback, protesting that as a member of the disciplinary committee, such behavior is forbidden. He observes her reaction, noting that while she was dejected before, this new, shocking proposal has elicited a different response entirely. He leans forward, his expression one of intense focus and conviction. His plan, though unorthodox, is perfect in his eyes for that very reason. His strategy centers on the contrast. Akira Tomasada, a member of the disciplinary committee, adopting a casual, almost rebellious way of wearing her uniform. A confused Akira questions if this is truly him speaking, but he confidently explains that this very contrast, this gap, is what will capture the heart of the gloomy boy she's after. Taking his words to heart, a blushing Akira wonders aloud if she should go even further and remove her tights. The thought makes her flustered. Watching her, Yudo is struck by her unexpected allure, realizing the immense potential of this supposedly difficult-to-approach girl. His gambit pays off immediately. A quick check of his device reveals that Akira's affection level has surged to 45. He knows he must maintain this upward momentum. Later, in a school hallway, Akira shakes hands with Shun Ogasawara. She thanks him for some prior advice and promises to give it her all the next day, to which he wishes her the best of luck. The following day, as students mill about, Yudo spots Akira approaching and calls out her name, his voice filled with astonishment. She has indeed undergone a makeover. Her uniform is styled more casually, and she shyly asks Shun for his opinion. He is momentarily speechless, while other students whisper about how cute she looks. Before he can fully respond, Shun is pulled away by his friends. Seizing the opportunity, Yudo slings an arm around a blushing Shun, casually asking if he thinks Tomasada's new style suits her. Flustered, Shun admits that he thinks it looks good on her. Overhearing his praise, Akira seems satisfied. She declares that it's good, then excuses herself, claiming she has work to do for the student council. As she walks away, Yudo gives a subtle thumbs up, pleased with the result. But alone, leaning against a wall, her satisfaction gives way to confusion. She thinks to herself that it makes no sense. Ogasawara praised her, an outcome that should have made her happy, yet she feels nothing of the sort. Instead, she finds herself wondering why she is thinking about Aku. On a quiet sidewalk, a single shoe lies abandoned, a silent testament to his sudden departure. The sense of absence carries into the classroom where Yudo sits. As the teacher begins homeroom, his eyes fall upon an empty desk. Akira is not there. His concern is immediately validated as a system prompt materializes before him. His life points are mere 30 out of 100. He understands instantly. The prompt appearance means something has happened, and with his life on the line, he can no longer afford to choose the wrong option. He acts decisively. Raising his hand, he tells the teacher he needs to go to the toilet. Permission granted, he slips out of the room, his expression hardening. He knew something like this would happen. Someone had been waiting for this exact opportunity. He heads for the gym storage. Inside, Akira is cornered by a hooded figure. He menacingly asks what she's trying to pull, accusing her of attempting to seduce them with her skimpy attire. Uncowed, Akira retorts that he's the one pulling something, demanding he say something that makes sense. The assailant shoves her back, pinning her down. He insists it's her fault, that she was wearing a seductive outfit all morning. As he looms over her, Akira's thoughts drift away from the danger. She hadn't done this for them. She just wanted the person she loved to be impressed with her. The door bursts open. Yudo stands there, furious, roaring for the assailant to get his filthy hands off Akira. He points accusingly, declaring that heroines are supposed to get together with the protagonist. The hooded man turns, shocked, cursing Yudo for getting in his way. He is presented with a choice: punch him. As a fan of the original game, he refuses to let this kind of event happen on his watch. With a powerful cry, he lunges forward, his fist connecting squarely with the assailant's jaw. After the confrontation, he checks on Akira. "Are you hurt?" She shakes her head, thanking him for saving her. But then, her voice trembles as she apologizes, saying it was terrifying and blaming herself for causing it. He quickly dismisses her apology, insisting it wasn't her fault. As he turns away, she looks down, a profound confusion clouding her features. She finally understands. The happiness she felt earlier, it wasn't because Ogasawara praised her. Her thoughts drift to the one who just saved her. It was because of him, because of Yudo. In his room, Yudo stares at his phone in disbelief. The screen displays a notification. Akira Tomasada's affection level has reached 100. A wild thought crosses his mind, that this must mean he's now allowed to do whatever he wants. The cause of this sudden change was a recent, pivotal encounter. Akira had explained to him that he had saved her many times, noting that this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. With a deep blush, she finally confessed that it seems she has fallen in love with him. Her heartfelt confession closed the distance between them, their faces just inches apart. He recognized this as a development that never occurred in the original game. With her eyes closed and a blush on her cheeks, he knew in that moment that he had finished conquering her. But in the present, that memory brought only frustration. He threw his blanket aside, shouting into the empty room, demanding to know why this had happened. His outburst subsided as he glanced at his phone again, noticing his own status. His life points were fully restored. He questioned how this could have happened, then cursed his luck, lamenting that he had been just one step away from kissing her. The restored life points offered no comfort, instead sparking a new wave of panic. He ran a hand through his hair, wondering if he couldn't go back even after a successful conquest. He quickly dismissed the thought, as he hadn't gone through with it, but a dreadful possibility emerged. Did this mean he had to redo everything from scratch? The following morning at school, the consequences of his actions began to unfold. Shun watched Akira, thinking that her affection level should be in the negative by now. And yet, she turned to him with a gentle expression and greeted him, calling him a coup. Her simple greeting was accompanied by a radiant, unburdened smile that lit up her entire face. That smile was the living proof of the message now permanently displayed on Yudo's screen. Akira Tomasada conquered. Complete. He watched as Akira Tomasada seemed to snap out of trance, her brow furrowed in confusion. She quietly wondered what she had just said, her memory of the confession already fading. Turning to him, she began to speak, her expression softening as she noted his concern for Ogasawara and acknowledged how much he had helped her. But her words did not register. Instead, he greeted her with a simple, cheerful morning, Tomasada, raising a hand in a casual wave. His mind was elsewhere, reflecting on a fundamental rule of his existence. Whenever he conquers a heroine, a loop occurs, and all relationships are completely rewritten. The world reset accordingly. With a bright, untroubled smile, Akira returned his greeting. He knew that to escape this world, he had to ensure the heroines, all of them, developed affection for the true protagonist. This was his mission, a task he had to accomplish by repeating these loops. He had to do it while dying again and again. He glanced at his phone, the screen displaying his name, Kanji Aku, and his life bar, now full at 100/100. A cold thought pierced through his resolve. No, this perfect score wasn't a victory. It was a catastrophe. A young man named Yudo Hatano recounts his strange fate. One day, he awoke to find himself inside the world of his favorite dating simulator, after school flares. However, he was not himself. He had been reincarnated as the game's villainous character, Kanji Aku. He understands that to escape this world, he must successfully conquer each of the game's heroines. He recalls the arduous process. After realizing his situation, he put his extensive game knowledge to use, staking his life on the line time and again. Finally, through great effort, he managed to conquer the first heroine, Akira Tomasada. Now, in the school hallway, Akira greets him with a pleasant smile, congratulating him for not being late. He thinks to himself that his true inner self is never tardy. She then asks why he stopped dressing in his usual flashy manner, a question that puzzles him. A system notification confirms her affection level is maxed out. She has been conquered. He presses her, reminding her that she used to wear her skirt very short and dress to emphasize her chest. Akira is taken aback, denying it vehemently. She insists she would never dress that way and asks if he's confusing her with someone else. His confusion turns to alarm. He grabs her by the shoulders, asking frantically if she remembers confessing her love to him. She looks at him, completely baffled, asking what he's been going on about. The terrible truth begins to sink in. she doesn't remember. He processes the devastating realization. All of his successful routes, all the memories created while conquering a heroine, are erased the moment he succeeds. While Akira now chats with him normally, a vast improvement from before, he gets nothing else in reward. He cries out in frustration, lamenting the loss of the fluttery feelings he had earned, just when he thought he could finally flirt with Akira. In that moment of despair, he is struck by a sudden, sharp kick from behind. His assailant is another of the game's heroines, Elena Hiraizumi. She coldly tells him to move aside and threatens to strip him to the bone and bury him. He is momentarily stunned to see her in the flesh, observing her silky hair and long eyelashes. A quick check of her profile reveals a hostile affection level of -50 and a note describing her as grumpy and dumb, with her cute face being her only redeeming quality. The encounter prompts him to check his own status. He sees that his personal stats, his way, have increased since he conquered Tamasada. He realizes that, just as in the game, conquering a heroine causes him to rank up and become stronger. As she walks away, Elena mutters that having bulky trash in her space is annoying. He watches her go, a new plan forming. Considering her profile again, he notes her low technique stat and thinks that he might just have a shot at having a proper conversation with her. He observed that Elena Hiraizumi was not currently with Shun Ogasawara, making it the perfect opportunity for a villain like him to intervene. With his mind made up, he declared that Elena would be the next heroine he conquered. The opportunity arose during an outdoor class where students were asked to pair up. While others mingled, Elena sat alone, isolated and unapproachable, hugging her knees to her chest. He saw this as his chance to finally start a conversation with her. With a confident grin, he prepared himself, certain that this was his moment to get onto the Elena route. As he approached, a set of dialogue options appeared before him. He considered the choices: lend me your face, lend me some money, pair up with me, and mourning. Dismissing the fourth option as incorrect, he reasoned that as a villainous character, the most audacious choice, the first one, must be the correct greeting. Her reaction was immediate and venomous. She called him dirt and demanded he burn away like refuse and disappear from her sight. The response threw him into a panic, making him question if he'd chosen wrongly and fear that he was about to die again because of a bad choice. His fear was realized as a man in a dark suit and sunglasses placed a hand on his shoulder from behind. The man declared that, as per his orders, he would eliminate any insolent male students. He could only sweat and wonder what was happening before the bodyguard violently tossed him high into the air. From her seat on the ground, Elena watched the event unfold without a change in her expression. Suddenly, he jolted awake in bed with a scream. He was alive. The realization struck him. When he gets killed for choosing the wrong option, he is revived, caught in a loop that forces him to try again. He sat up, rubbing his head in frustration. He couldn't believe he was killed so casually just for making a mistake. He mused that this game wasn't supposed to be like this, a world where laws and consequences seemed not to matter. He wondered if he was receiving this horrible treatment simply because he was inhabiting the role of a villain. Seeing a skip icon appear, he steeled himself, ready to face the challenge once more. He contemplates the situation, realizing the man in black was Elena's bodyguard, likely hired by her overprotective father. Though he considers it overkill, he sees the dialogue choices have reappeared, offering him another chance. He scrutinizes the list of options, determined not to lose another life. If the first choice was wrong, he must now deduce the correct one from the remaining three. His attention is drawn to the fourth option, a simple mourning. Intrigued by its simplicity, he resolves to give it a try, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. He approaches and offers the greeting. Elena turns with a scowl, declaring that his voice makes her ears rot and demanding he not speak to her. As a bad feeling washes over him, Yudo sees the bodyguard raise his pistol once more, and he panics at the harsh penalty for another wrong choice. The shot rings out. As he falls backward, Yudo gives a thumbs up, telling Elena not to worry. She cries out his name in shock. He awakens in his bed again, head throbbing from the memory of a grotesque sound. A status screen confirms his life points have dropped to 80 out of 100. He sighs, frustrated by the unfair booby traps and the difficulty of making consecutive choices in a single encounter. He reflects on what he knows about Elena. She is a classic tsundere, a rich girl whose prickly exterior hides a softer side that emerges over time. He recalls that her eventual cuteness is devastating and, crucially, that she has a strained relationship with her father. The world's rules are laid bare. Failure with a heroine means death, a loss of life points, and a reset from bed. This memory of her difficult relationship with her father sparks an idea. He sees it as his opening. Skipping past the other options, his finger taps on the second choice. Lend me some money. He puts the plan into action, holding out his hand and bluntly asking Elena to lend him some money. She is completely taken aback, shouting in disbelief and questioning if trash like him even understands the value of money. He maintains a confident smirk, asking what the problem is since she's rich. He glances around, surprised that nothing has happened yet, wondering if this could actually be the right choice. In the background, Elena fumes, telling him to drop dead. He stood there perplexed. He had thought his conquest would proceed smoothly with this approach, but Elena remained as cold and prickly as ever, just as the game foretold. He couldn't even manage a simple conversation, leaving him to wonder what he was supposed to do. His mind raced, searching for a solution, when he recalled a specific event from the game storyline. a moment designed to bring the protagonist closer to her. Just then, a baseball rolled to a stop by Elena's foot as a nearby student called out, thanking her for catching it. The other student approached, apologizing profusely. She explained that she was so swamped she doubted she could make it to the party. Elena's gaze remained icy as she offered a curt, dismissive reply, acknowledging it was a shame. Watching the exchange, he had a sudden realization. The home party, that was the key, the event that served as the flag to set off the Elena route. He saw clearly now. He had no other choice but to go for it and take the ball. He immediately put his plan into motion, cheerfully approaching Elena. He asked if he could go to the party as well, even offering to bring Ogasawara along. Elena recoiled, flustered, shouting at him to stay away and declaring that his presence would make the very plants in her house rot. Her outburst failed to hide her true feelings. A deep blush spread across her face as she stammered, questioning why he would mention Ogasawara. He observed her reaction, noting internally that she was terrible at feigning ignorance, possessing practically zero defense. He pressed his advantage, drawing upon his knowledge of the game's plot. He knew that Elena had harbored feelings for Ogasawara ever since he'd saved her from a pinch at the school entrance. He looked at her pointedly, asking if she had sent Ogasawara his invitation yet. A look of pure shock crossed her face as she demanded to know how he could possess such information. He turned his head slightly, a knowing, confident smile playing on his lips. "You see," he said calmly, "I know everything." Her mind reeled. The blush on her cheeks deepened as the truth of his words sank in. She knew it. This was exactly the same as in the game. She attempted a weak defense, claiming she only refrained from sending the invitation because she assumed Ogasawara was busy. He immediately saw through the excuse, calling her a liar. He explained that she was simply too self-conscious, causing her defensive, prickly mode to activate and preventing her from extending the invitation herself. He watched as Elena Hiraizumi reluctantly conceded, telling him to suit himself if he was so intent on bringing Shun. Internally, however, he knew she was overjoyed, finding her prickly attempt to hide her happiness utterly adorable. With her reluctant agreement secured, his next target was Shun Ogasawara. He found him by the lockers in classroom 2A. Surprised, Shun looked up from his book as Yudo called out to him. He casually slung an arm around Shun's shoulders, announcing that there was a party at Hiraizumi's house the following weekend, and that Shun had to come. Taken aback by the sudden invitation, Shun stammered that he had other plans, but quickly relented and agreed to go. As Yudo confirmed their plans, Shun sighed to himself, lamenting that he couldn't even have a proper internal monologue. He recalled his knowledge from a game, wondering what a heroine like Elena could possibly see in Ogasawara. He noted that Shun's stats were still at their early game levels, far below his own, yet he was the one who needed to be conquered. The day of the party arrived. Stepping into a grand, chandelier-lit hall filled with guests, Shun could only let out an amazed whoa. Yudo, standing beside him, calmly agreed that it was amazing. His gaze swept the room, and he spotted Akira Tamasada, remarking that she had been invited as well. Shun was immediately captivated, thinking to himself how pretty Akira looked in a dress. Yudo, meanwhile, mused that while Ogasawara was a special guest, he himself had only been included under the general everyone invitation. Just then, the host herself appeared. Elena Hiraizumi, wearing a lovely dress, waved and welcomed them. Shun was struck speechless by her appearance. He, on the other hand, was overcome with emotion. With tears streaming down his face, he thought about what a beauty she was on a completely different level from the game. He also noted that her affection level towards Ogasawara seemed to have increased slightly. He approached Elena, asking what about him, and complaining that she was ignoring him. He pointed out that she hadn't even sent him an invitation, calling it bad taste and the start of bullying. Unfazed, Elena simply told Ogasawara and Tamasada to enjoy themselves and walked away with them, leaving Yudo to sarcastically thank her before turning his attention to the food. She walked away, thinking that she'd prefer it if he disappeared right then. The party would become filthy if she catered to the likes of him. As Yudo lamented her prickly treatment, a stern voice cut through the air, asking Elena how long she intended to stay there. A man, her father, had arrived. She turned and answered him obediently as Yudo, Shun, and Akira looked on. As she stood by, her father raised a glass of wine toward the young man in a bow tie, offering a toast. Watching the interaction, Akira Tamasada voiced the question weighing on Yudo's mind. Could that man truly be Hiraizumi's fiancé? He confirmed it was likely, his own reflection staring back at him from his cup as he decided to recount Elena's story as he knew it from a game. He recalled that the Hiraizumi family was once very poor, a hardship that had taken a great toll on Elena's mother. His memory drifted to a scene of a much younger Elena, her face bright with joy as her mother called out that the food was ready. Due to her father's failing business, they were forced into a life of poverty, but the young girl cherished the simple moments the three of them shared as a family around the dinner table. To escape their hardship, her father dedicated himself to working constantly, leaving the household to his wife. Elena's mother, who had a frail constitution, eventually succumbed to the stress and passed away at a young age while her husband was away. The father was consumed by regret, believing his poverty had caused his wife's death. He worked tirelessly until his business succeeded, gaining fame and wealth. Elena, however, grew to hate him believing he cared only for his work and had abandoned her mother. Driven by a desire to ensure his daughter would never suffer as he had, he began using his success to bring wealthy, upper-class men to his home, determined to arrange a secure future for her. This, however, only made his daughter rebellious. Yudo recalled a pivotal moment from the game's narrative. Elena, weeping, declared she was sick of it, crying that her mother had told her to find happiness with a person she truly loved. Coming back to the present, Yudo understood the source of their strained relationship. Shun noted that he seemed to know a lot about Hiraizumi, to which Yudo admitted, with a wry smile, that he had simply played the game many times. He watched as Shun Ogasawara, taking on the role originally destined for him in the game's plot, stood protectively beside a distraught Elena. With newfound resolve, Shun declared fiercely that he would not give Elena up. As the group discussed the situation, Yua Minamoto mused that Elena's inability to express affection made conflict with her father inevitable. Yudo, however, considered the father's perspective, acknowledging that while the man seemed unhinged, he likely thought he was doing what was best for a daughter who kept bringing different boys home. Later, at the party's buffet, Shun's attention was drawn to Elena, who had just returned to the room. He watched her walk away, his expression filled with concern as he wondered aloud if she was okay. He started to follow, but Yudo placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. Yudo advised him to let her be, warning that she was in a foul mood and would only snap at him. Shun reluctantly agreed, seeing the truth in his words. As he sampled the food, Yudo considered his own predicament. He knew that even if Shun called out to Elena, there was zero chance she wouldn't ignore him, which could complicate his own plans to win her over. His thoughts were interrupted by Akira Tomasada, who gently offered him a napkin and reminded him to mind his manners. He was taken aback, touched by the small kindness and the realization that she still remembered him. After the tense party finally concluded, the three departed from the grand Hiraizumi estate together. On the way, he mulled over his standing with Elena. To her, Shun was a crush, while he was just an acquaintance with a nasty personality. With such a vast difference in their affection levels, he knew he had to tread carefully, realizing he couldn't even hold a conversation with her without bringing up Shun. A new plan began to crystallize. He considered Elena's sheltered life and thought about using Shun as bait to ask her out, creating an opportunity to take her on a detour after school, something she'd likely never done before. He pictured the ideal outcome of this scheme, earning a massive number of affection points and finally getting the chance to flirt with her for real. The thought of it actually succeeding felt almost too good to be true. He cheerfully waves, suggesting they all hang out. Internally, he dismisses Elena's expected reluctance, recognizing her snarky remarks as a form of coy affection, a reward, even. With a flourish, he finalizes his scheme, a group outing for himself, Tomasada, and Ogasawara. She scoffs in response, calling him an idiot and claiming to be busy. Despite her words, she agrees to meet at the station at 10 in the morning. Yudo internally celebrates. Bringing Ogasawara into the plan worked perfectly. He knows her claim of being busy is just a front. Despite her agreement, Elena later reviews the proposed itinerary with disdain. She internally fumes at the shallow and infuriating plans of a commoner, listing activities like game centers, ramen, and karaoke. She can't believe he thought she would be happy with such a proposal. Her thoughts drift as she walks through the city. She realizes this is the first time she has ever been asked to just hang out with friends. Her life has always been rigidly scheduled, every action dictated by her father. The memory of asking someone for a consultation surfaces in her mind. The next day, at the meeting point, Elena arrives 5 minutes early, though she claims she was just bored. Yudo sees right through it, knowing she was curious. As she takes in the bustling sights of a shopping district, her eyes widen with genuine wonder. He leans in close, asking if this is her first time in a place like this. Flustered, she loudly denies it, but her blushing face tells a different story. Yudo smirks, noticing her affection level has risen to 10. Her happiness is undeniable, no matter what she says. The destination is revealed to be a massive game center, its interior filled with rows of crane machines packed with stuffed dolls and other prizes. Inside, Yudo quickly wins a large teddy bear. He presents it to Elena, telling her she can have it since she wanted it. Blushing deeply, she accepts the prize with a quiet thank you, though she mutters that she never actually said she wanted it. After a successful shopping trip, the group of friends enjoyed a meal together. Elena Hiraizumi excitedly showed off her finds, declaring them cute. Yua Minamoto admired a small dress, while Akira Tomasada gave a thumbs up in approval. They all agreed it was a great place, with delicious and inexpensive food. As they prepared to leave, Yudo was laden with shopping bags. Elena, looking flustered, questioned how much he had bought and insisted he give her the bags, claiming it was none of his concern. Unfazed, he simply smiled, slung another bag over his shoulder, and announced it was time to go. Later that evening, a dark car waited by the curb. Elena stood with Yudo, Akira, and Shun, bidding them farewell before departing for the night. A status update materialized in Yudo's awareness. Elena Hiraizumi's affection level had officially reached 40. Walking to school the following day, he contemplated this progress. He recognized that Elena's affection was steadily increasing, confirming that his plan to win her over was now truly underway. Near the school entrance, Elena and Shun Ogasawara exchanged morning greetings. Observing them from a distance, Yua smiled to herself. She figured it was only natural they would grow closer with more interaction, and resolved that it was time for her to make her own initial move. Her thoughts were interrupted by a startling realization. Elena was the one who had made the first move. Yua commented on how Elena and Shun always seemed to be together and wondered aloud if they were going to have fun over the upcoming weekend. Later, in the classroom, Yudo approached Elena's desk, asking if there was anywhere she wanted to go, since she hadn't decided yet. Elena shot back defensively, denying she had said anything of the sort. Watching from afar, Yua remarked to Akira that Elena wasn't being honest with herself, but that this was one of her good points. Yudo calmly considered his options. He suggested karaoke. With a determined expression, Elena declared she would go, then theatrically demanded that he listen to her melodious voice and weep with gratitude. Yudo playfully teased her, saying it would be a problem if people discovered she was tone-deaf, which earned him an indignant shout. Her presence seemed to trigger a new interface in his vision. Considering her current affection level, he concluded that a direct, offensive approach was the best strategy. A list of options appeared, but the fourth one, a date with just the two of them, stood out as the most promising. He had never seen such an effect before. A strange warping sensation accompanied his selection. With newfound resolve, his finger tapped the fourth option. His suggestion to go out together was met with immediate, loud refusal. She declared she would absolutely not go with him. And yet, despite her words, the conversation flowed smoothly, confirming for him that he had made the right choice. Later that night, despite her earlier protests, she confirmed their plans. Lying in her ornate bed, she rationalized her decision to herself, thinking that she was only going because he said it would be fun and that she had no choice in the matter. A blush warmed her cheeks as she wondered why it had to be him. She wished it had been Ogasawara who'd asked her out. But she had to admit, with Yudo, she could talk about anything freely without having to constantly be on her guard. At the karaoke parlor, her initial wariness was on full display. She warned him that if he tried anything funny, he was dead. Soon after, however, she was completely immersed, singing her heart out like a princess. He cheered her on with a tambourine, proclaiming her the cutest girl in the world. She erupted in laughter at his antics, asking if he was dumb for being so desperate. Later, as they walked, he saw her affection level had risen to 60. Their moment was interrupted by a man in a suit who condescendingly told Yudo, a cherished young boy, to buzz off. He paid the man no mind, instead turning to Elena with a smile. He asked if this meant they could still have fun together. Annoyed, she shot back that it was exactly what she was saying, questioning if he even had ears. Their exchange was cut short when the man in sunglasses stepped forward, announcing that it was time for Miss Elena to leave. Yudo's expression hardened as he recognized him as one of her security guards, the ones he thought of as having loose screws. Without a second thought, he grabbed her hand and yelled for them to get out of there. He pulled her into a run, urging her to hurry as the security detail was too desperate. As they fled through the glittering night, he realized he knew what to do from a past experience, leaving her to wonder what he could possibly mean. Having lost his targets, the bodyguard stands alone in the park, reporting into his earpiece. He apologizes, confirming that Miss Elena has escaped. He adds a new detail. A young boy, unmentioned in any prior reports, was with her. As the man walks away, Yudo and Elena emerge from their hiding spot among the bushes. He breathes a sigh of relief, noting that their pursuer has finally left. Elena quietly agrees. He remarks on how overprotective the bodyguard is, privately wondering if these security types are like the villains from the original game who try to claim the heroines for themselves. Elena, however, corrects him, insisting that's not the case. She explains the truth. Her father wants her to marry the son of a distinguished family. It is a move made purely to solidify his own position. Faced with her confession, a familiar set of choices materializes in Yudo's mind. He must decide how to respond. Ask her to go home, show compassion, hug her, or simply keep hanging out. He wonders what the right move is in this situation. As he considers his options, a system tip appears, insistently repeating the same advice. Hug her. His finger hesitates over the third choice. He acknowledges it's not a bad option, but feels a flicker of reluctance. Despite his hesitation, he pulls Elena into a sudden embrace, startling her. At that exact moment, the bodyguard reappears, weapon drawn, and shouts her name. Panicked, Yudo tries to explain that it's a misunderstanding, begging the man not to shoot. A gunshot cracks through the night air, splintering the park bench beside them. The force throws Yudo to the ground, where he lies motionless. Elena cries out his name in shock and terror. Suddenly, he finds himself sitting up in bed, the park and the bodyguard gone. He realizes with a jolt that his choice was a terrible gamble. He berates himself, understanding that option 3 was clearly the wrong one, and questioning his own actions. He then looks at a screen displaying his status. His name, Kanji Aku, is at the top, and below it a life bar shows a value of 50 out of 100. He stares at the number, his life now halved, and a chilling thought crosses his mind. What happens if it reaches 0? He also questions the source of the system's tips, noting that while such information is vital in games, its origin in this reality is a complete mystery. He found himself facing the same critical choice once more. Messing up was one thing, but to fail twice would be a different matter entirely. He weighed his options. Telling Elena to go home seemed harsh, while showing compassion felt like the safest path. He recalled how much fun she was having, her earnest desire to keep hanging out. If she was truly serious about this, he had to consider her feelings. With his mind made up, he selected the fourth option. He turned to Elena, suggesting they forget her usual routine and just keep going. He acknowledged that the security police might still find them, but it wasn't too late to enjoy themselves. He accepted the risk, knowing full well the security police wouldn't let him off easily. He warned her that she wouldn't get off scot-free either if they were caught again, then asked what she truly wanted to do. He pressed on, confirming her desire to hang out, to break her curfew, to finally cut loose from the constant control she was under. He declared that this might be their only chance, urging her to do whatever she wanted. Elena rose to her feet, a new resolve in her eyes. She told him not to blame her if she got herself into a mess. As she spoke, his hand closed around hers, a firm, reassuring grip. Their escape was a success. They celebrated with a high five and spent the evening exploring the city. For Elena, it was a night of firsts. She savored the sweet taste of a crepe and discovered the savory delight of dipping noodles. As the clock neared 9, Elena conceded that it was time to go home. She confessed that the time they spent together felt far too short. When he asked if the outing had helped clear her mind, she could only respond with uncertainty. He was glad to hear it, advising her to come up with a good excuse for her absence. As he bid her farewell, a system notification confirmed his success. Elena Hirazumi's affection level had risen to 80. He suggested they do this again sometime. But upon reaching her home, Elena was intercepted by a man in a suit. He informed her that her father was waiting. She struggled, demanding he let her go, but he led her onward, down an unfamiliar hall to a room she had never seen. Her heart pounded with dread as the man announced her arrival. She finds herself in a dilapidated, unfamiliar room. Surrounded by debris, a broken mannequin head, and a discarded knife, she sits on the floor, utterly bewildered, wondering where she is. Her confusion is interrupted by a voice calling her name, Elena. With a bead of sweat on her cheek and her eyes wide with fear, she stammers a reply. Oh yes, the voice belongs to her father. He stands over her with a sinister smile, holding a riding crop. I've been waiting for you, he says, addressing his beloved Elena. Meanwhile, at school, an announcement declares that Elena Hirazumi will be absent due to a cold. Sitting beside Shun, Yudo immediately grows suspicious. He recalls the same choices that appeared during the incident with Akira, wondering if Elena is truly sick, faking it, or something more serious has happened. He knows that a sudden absence is a significant flag. He quickly settles on the third option. Something must have happened to her. He asks the teacher for permission to use the restroom. The teacher agrees, reminding him to take care of such things before class next time. Once in the hallway, he checks his phone. All his messages to Elena are unread, and his calls go unanswered. He realizes with dawning horror that this is an Elena route he knows nothing about. His meddling as a villain has caused the story to derail completely. His only choice is to go to her house. He makes his way to the Hiraizumi estate. Finding the main entrance too risky, he spots a side route along the terrace and decides to use it to slip inside unnoticed. He slips inside, finding himself in an unfamiliar area at the top of the staircase. This place, he realizes, did not exist in the game. He knows it's only a matter of time before security finds him and that he must find Elena quickly. As he stands at the top of the dark staircase, a sudden, sharp cry echoes from below, startling him. He senses that whatever is happening is just ahead. From below, voices drift up. A man demands to know why she doesn't understand. Elena's voice retorts defiantly, vowing never to forgive him if he harms the person she cares for. Listening from the shadows, Yudo is stunned. He has never heard of this event. He stood before the closed door, his heart pounding with a terrible certainty. Elena was just beyond it. Throwing the door open, he was met with a horrifying sight. Elena, suspended by chains from the ceiling, looked up in shock and confusion, asking why he was there. He could only scream her name, his mind reeling. He rushed toward her, but she cried out for him not to look, threatening to kill him if he kept staring. Ignoring her threat, his eyes fixed on her injuries as he desperately asked if she was all right. His mind raced with a frantic realization. He screamed internally that this horrific event never happened in the original game's Elena route. The scene of her captivity dissolved into a memory of his confrontation with her father. The older man, sitting calmly with a glass of wine, had demanded to know who he was. Standing his ground, he had introduced himself as Elena's friend, Kanji Aku, and turned the question back on him. His defiance had grown into righteous fury. He furiously declared that this was supposed to be Elena's route, a story where an awkward father and daughter were meant to reconcile. He spat that he would never be moved by such a sick, twisted display of fatherly love. The older man had remained unimpressed, dismissing his outburst as nonsense and identifying him as the man from the day before. Undeterred, he had pressed on, demanding to know if the man had ever once told Elena he loved her, blaming his twisted personality for making her so cynical. His words were met with a chilling retort. The father countered that since he had never done anything decent, perhaps he wanted him to take action instead. The memory of a younger Elena clutching a teddy bear was immediately followed by the image of her father's shoe crushing the toy. Back in the present, her father warned him not to do something he'd regret. Ignoring him, Yudo lunged forward with a key, promising to save Elena. As he unlocked her shackles, a shadowy, monstrous creature burst from his back and attacked her father. Elena, now free but terrified, could only stare in horror. The man struck back with brutal force, hitting Yudo squarely on the back. He cried out, thinking the pain was nothing compared to what Elena had endured. As her father raised his hand again, Elena tearfully begged him to stop, pleading for him not to hurt Aku. The man sneered, noting how easily his daughter had been wrapped around Kanji Aku's fingers. Despite the blow he'd taken, he rose to his feet, straightening his tie. He looked down at the man on the floor and questioned why he could only speak through violence, telling him to face his daughter directly. He condemned the man's use of security to monitor her, calling him sick in the head. He roared that such actions were not how one protects their daughter. Enraged, Elena's father yelled back, questioning where a boy like him got off lecturing him, insisting that disciplining a poorly raised daughter was a father's duty. Internally, a set of choices appeared before him, all identical. Discipline him. With his decision made, he declared that in that case, he would be the one to discipline a father who was not raised well. He lunged forward, his fist connecting with the man's jaw in a brutal, resounding blow. Elena could only watch, her eyes wide with shock. Standing over the defeated man, he stated coolly that hurting one's daughter is not discipline. He advised that if the man truly cherished her, he should express it with his words. Later that night, as they walked along a canal, Elena urged him not to be so reckless again, admitting how worried she was that he might have died. He thanked her for her concern. She then asked how he managed to find her in that room, to which he cryptically replied it was his game intuition. She asked what he planned to do now, since his house was in chaos. He acknowledged they would be separated for a while. Elena then revealed her own plan. She has an aunt on her mother's side who lives abroad, and she intends to ask her aunt to take her in, describing her as a kind woman, just like her mother. His words to her father echoed in her mind. If you really cherish her, express it with words. A blush crept across her face at the memory. Looking at him, she confessed that her opinion of him, Aku, had honestly improved. She recalled that even though they had shot him many times, he still took her to many places and made sure she had fun. At that moment, her affection level for him reached 100. She stammers, blushing deeply as she tries to articulate her feelings. She searches for the right words, wanting to say that she is fond of him. Before she can finish, Yudo shouts from the balcony that he loves her too. Stunned by his directness, Elena is overcome with emotion. She then shyly asks him to be gentle, as this is her first time. The entire exchange was a dream. Yudo wakes up in his bed, clutching his pillow and lamenting the cruelty of being woken up right before a kiss. He cries out for his dear Elena. Later that morning, Shun Ogasawara walks to school, dreading the start of another day. He wonders what kind of reaction Elena will have when she sees him. He spots her getting out of the car and greets her, but his greeting is met with a cold stare from a young man in the car, who remarks on the terrible start to his day. He asks if her father drove her, and Elena confirms it, adding that thanks to him, she was able to get closer to her dad. She then dismisses him, telling him to move aside. Shun is left confused, wondering why he thought about her at all. His thoughts turn to his goal. He believes he has now conquered the second heroine, Elena. He resolves that if she becomes happy, he can die for her as many times as it takes. He recalls that during his conquest of Tamasada, some events occurred that were not part of the original plot. This time, however, the events changed in a way that was completely different from the original story because of his meddling. He wonders if the change occurred because he, the villain, conquered the heroine and not Ogasawara, the intended hero. On a city street, Shun Ogasawara walks, lost in thought. He spots a familiar car, recognizing it as belonging to Elena's father. He muses that while the names and locations might be the same as in the game, the people living in this world are undeniably real. Elsewhere, Kanji Aku is approached by Elena Hiriazumi. She looks down on him, calling him a dead fish but offers him a ride. He glances at his phone, which confirms her status. Affection level 100, conquered. He politely declines, but she insists, declaring it an act of kindness. Having accepted, he sits beside her in the car. He hadn't expected her to be so kind and wonders if she's trying to do something for him. He quickly realizes she doesn't remember being conquered. She only feels a vague sense of debt. He reflects that if he could just shed his villain role, life would be simple, but conquering her has undeniably brought them closer. His mind wanders to the life he could have had. A normal school day, attending classes, chatting casually with Akira and Elena, eating lunch together. Then, simply going home to sleep. The thought solidifies his resolve. His eyes narrow with determination. He doesn't want to die. He has no choice but to forge forward. At school, Shun's life seems to have fully recovered. Yua Minamoto sits closely with him, tending to a scrape on his knee. Observing them, Kanji Aku checks his own status, now fully restored. It's time, he decides, to begin his next conquest. His target, Yua Minamoto. He recalls her profile from the game. The protagonist's childhood friend, supposedly an easy route. He reconsiders. In the real world, good girls don't fall in love so quickly. If Yua proves too tough, perhaps he should go for Mikamo Hawaii. He thinks about her reputation as the school's prim and proper #1 beauty, whose strong will has earned her many fans. His attention shifts to Shun and Mikamo, who are discussing their duties. He knows how most boys get nervous around her, just like Ogasawara. Confident that his own status will prevent him from being ignored, he makes his decision. He will conquer Mikamo first. His phone displays her profile, revealing a starting affection level of -70. Later, in a classroom, He spots her and approaches with a friendly wave. Hey, ha dash, he begins, but she is instantly startled. She jumps to her feet, stammering that she needs to go to the teacher's room. He reaches out, calling for her to wait. He quickly apologizes for scaring her, insisting he just wants to get to know her better. But Mikamo is overwhelmed, covering her mouth as she repeatedly whispers apologies and flees down the hall, leaving him standing alone. He observed her up close, taking in her damp eyes, fair skin, and the blush on her cheeks. He had to admit, she was quite cute in person. Mikamo, still flustered, questioned why he wanted to get to know her. In response to her question, a set of choices appeared before him. He reasoned that since he wasn't the protagonist, a direct confession of love would likely scare her off. The option of being just classmates was too safe. By process of elimination, he concluded that calling her cute was the best approach and selected the third option. He delivered his chosen line, "Because you're cute." Mikamo was taken aback, stammering that there were plenty of other cute girls. He internally noted that this seemed to be the correct choice, but his satisfaction was short-lived. He spotted Shun Ogasawara in the hallway, and at that moment, Mikamo's affection level plummeted to -8. Their conversation was abruptly cut short when a group of girls aggressively bumped into Mikamo. One of them yelled at her to watch where she was going, while another sarcastically commented on her getting attention from popular boys like Ogasawara. He watched the confrontation unfold, realizing these girls were likely jealous of Mikamo's popularity and were bullying her. This, he deduced, was why she had been avoiding him, fearing he was associated with them. The girls continued their taunts, mocking her as a princess otaku, and Mikamo could only offer a meek apology. Refusing to stand by, he stepped forward and shouted at the bullies, declaring that they had bumped into her on purpose. He pointedly demanded that they apologize to Hawaii, drawing the attention of other students in the hall. His sudden defense left Mikamo stunned. She turned toward him, softly whispering his name, Aku, followed by a quiet thank you. Feeling a sense of progress, he wondered what to do next. Before he could act, other classmates swarmed Mikamo, inviting her to a cafe, the cinema, and even rock climbing. She politely but firmly turned down every single offer, not showing interest in any of them. As he contemplated his next move, Akira Tomasada approached him with perfect timing. She explained that the discipline committee had given her 2 boxing tickets and, not knowing what to do with them, offered them to him. He accepted with thanks, a new plan forming as he recalled that one of Mikamo's surprising hobbies was watching martial arts. This new information was exactly what he needed. Checking his device, he saw Mikamo's affection level had risen to -50. Armed with the tickets and a new strategy focused on her interests, he approached her desk. He held out the tickets, asking if she would go with him to the upcoming martial arts match. She is left speechless as Mikamo Hawaii joyfully accepts the invitation, revealing that it's the same martial arts match Shun Ogasawara had invited her to. His plan to make progress with her alone has been completely upended. She then beams, clasping her hands together with an idea, suggesting that if he likes this sort of thing too, all 3 of them should go together, certain that it would be more fun that way. Reporting this development to Shun, Kanji is met with a casual acceptance, as Shun simply states it's what Hawaii wants. Their conversation is interrupted by Elena Hiriazumi, who reveals the match is sponsored by her father's company, and she could have arranged seats. Seeing his other plans complicated, Kanji resigns himself to asking for help next time. On the day of the event, Mikamo arrives at the dome, greeting the 2 boys. Dressed in casual clothes, her proper and cute appearance captivates Kanji. She holds up a handful of tickets, announcing she bought them for everyone, so they should be fine. A crucial piece of information comes to mind. The key to succeeding with Mikamo revolves around her mental growth and fostering her guts. This is because she always lacked the courage to take the first step. Her interactions with Shun, however, gradually changed her, allowing her to grow by challenging new things. Her admiration for martial arts stems from seeing the fighter's passion, an emotion she feels she is missing. Inside the arena, that passion is evident in her. Mikamo gasps with excitement, remarking on how real the ring and walkway feel. Beside her, Shun quietly agrees as Kanji observes them. He smirks, realizing a critical detail. In the original story, this event is what gets Shun into martial arts, but now there's a clear rift in enthusiasm between him and Mikamo. Kanji sees this as a weakness he can exploit. His attention then shifts to an empty, assigned seat next to him. The seat is suddenly occupied by Elena Hiriazumi, who greets them cheerfully. She explains she figured they wouldn't have tickets and went out of her way to get them some. When Mikamo asks if she also likes martial arts, Elena nervously claims she's just there to see what it's all about. As the match begins, Mikamo erupts with passion, shouting encouragement for a fighter named Takahito. While Shun looks on with a pained expression, Kanji observes the scene, a new set of choices appearing before him. Cheer along with her, make her stop, or explain the situation to Elena. He considers his options. While every instinct tells him to join in with Mikamo's cheering, he feels a palpable wave of animosity from behind him. It is Shun, whose expression is twisted with a deep-seated hatred for the fighter, Takahito. That animosity suddenly erupts into chaos. A furious spectator leaps to his feet, hoisting a folding chair and screaming for quiet. Reacting instantly, Kanji throws himself in front of Mikamo, shouting for her to watch out as Elena looks on in shock. His world goes dark. He awakens with a gasp, finding himself lying in bed, unharmed. The memory floods back. He was hit by the chair while protecting Mikamo. The impossible realization dawns on him. He died and was somehow revived. He now understands the stakes. Certain choices lead to failure. Cheering alongside her was a fatal mistake. Presented with the same options once more, he knows that making her stop is the only path forward that doesn't end in disaster. The moment resets. Mikamo is on her feet again, shouting encouragement for the fighter. This time, Kanji acts with foresight, calmly asking her to sit down so the people behind them can see the match. She immediately apologizes and takes her seat. The angry spectator behind them settles down, the tension dissipating. Kanji lets out a quiet sigh of relief, knowing he chose correctly and averted the danger. After the match, the group walks together through the evening streets. Mikamo is still buzzing with excitement, exclaiming how cool the fighter Takahito was. Shun agrees, acknowledging his powerful presence. Elena seizes the opportunity, asking Mikamo if that's the kind of man she likes. She enthusiastically confirms, rattling off a list of his admirable qualities, his strength, his sturdy mind and body, and all the things she feels she lacks. Elena listens, slightly bemused, wondering to herself if this rapid, passionate rambling is a special trait of nerds. Her admiration presents him with another critical choice. He quickly deduces that suggesting a shared goal is the safest way to grow closer to her. He turns to Mikamo and declares, "Let's both get strong." She stares back, utterly confused by the sudden proposition. He asks what she thought of the match, and she praises the fighters for their refusal to run or hide. Then he asks what she thought of him. Her mind immediately flashes back to the incident with the angry spectator, how he chose to de-escalate rather than confront. A shadow of disappointment crosses her face. As she listened, Kanji continued his argument, explaining that strength can be used for both attacking and defending. He reasoned that there was no harm in having it as a trump card she wouldn't use, a form of moral support. Nearby, Elena Hiriazumi considered his words, her expression serious as she contemplated the idea of possessing a power she would never have to unleash. His passionate pleas seemed to work. With a bright smile, Kanji declared that they should stand together on the ring of life and ring the gong of their hearts. His enthusiasm was infectious, and Mikamo, now beaming, agreed to give it her best. Their friends watched from a distance, stunned. Shun mused that Kanji might be someone incredible, while Yuo wondered aloud if he had just expertly sweet-talked Mikamo into agreeing. At the entrance to the rising gym, a muscular man with spiky blonde hair and sunglasses greets the newcomers. Yudo recognizes him instantly. It's the rowdy spectator from before. The man crosses his arms, a grin on his face, and asks what brings them to his gym. He and his companion, Mika, have finally arrived. She steps forward eagerly, declaring her desire to learn martial arts. Yudo quietly affirms that he shares her goal. Their training begins under the instructor's watchful eye. He advises Mika to maintain her posture and rhythm. She complies, diligently jumping rope and practicing her punches while Yudo observes. After a grueling session, he feels completely wiped out. He looks around for Mika, then notices her clothes left outside the shower room. A sudden realization hits him. She must be taking a shower right now. As this thought crosses his mind, a familiar interface materializes, presenting him with a choice. His finger decisively selects the second option, join her. He resolves to join her in the bath. The consequence of his choice is immediate and jarring. He finds himself suddenly standing in a boxing ring, wearing protective headgear and gloves, utterly bewildered. Across from him, the gym instructor appears, a towel around his neck, looking furious. From somewhere nearby, Mika's voice can be heard, wondering about the source of a familiar sound. The instructor declares it's time to begin. With a grunt, he unleashes a powerful blow. The punch connects with tremendous force, sending Yudo flying backward with a scream of pure agony. He crashes violently into the wall, shattering it on impact. Lying in the rubble, bruised and battered, he manages a pained grin. He thinks to himself that this feels like a scene from a battle manga. He's going through hell, he laments, and isn't even getting the lucky pervy event he'd hoped for. The vision fades, and reality snaps back. He's still outside the shower, staring at his phone, which now displays his life points at a precarious 50 out of 100. He curses himself, realizing he fell for an obvious trap. He now understands that the life he loses is proportional to his progress, and he can only afford to make one more mistake. He reflects on the game's purpose. It's supposed to be about mental growth, but he realizes that the villain's conquest of Mika requires both of them to become stronger. Their fates and their need for power are connected. He considers his options. To build a rapport with Mika, he needs to appear kind, which immediately rules out the fourth choice. Holding a fresh towel, he decides on the first option, to simply leave it for her. His choice proves correct. Mika emerges from the shower, a towel draped around her neck, expressing relief that he waited. She reminds him that she was the one who invited him. He is internally captivated by her appearance, thinking that even the water droplets on her skin seem to glitter and that she's worth 300 million points. She then leans in with a mischievous smile, catching him completely off guard. She asks directly if he looked at her panties. Flustered, he can only stammer in response. He quickly admits his fault. Mika, however, isn't upset. She explains that she figured out because he was the one who left the towel for her, connecting his kind gesture to the accidental discovery. She reassures him, saying she'll make a special case and let it slide since it was beyond his control. Internally, she reflects that he is far kinder and nicer than she had initially expected. To mark this new understanding, she decides to call him Aki from now on. The positive interaction is confirmed later as he checks his phone. An application shows Makako Hawaii's profile, her affection level now at a solid 20. He notes with satisfaction that his plan worked well. On her way home, Mika thinks about their time together. She muses on his qualities. He speaks his mind, he's serious, and he's kind. As she stands before her front door, her thoughts crystallize. She apologizes to him in her mind for having the wrong idea about him, realizing he isn't a scary person at all. A new feeling blossoms within her, a wish to get even closer to him. This wish marks the beginning of a new routine. From that day on, they started going to the Rising Gym together after school. Mika dedicates herself to the training, her punches landing with increasing force as she slowly but surely builds confidence in herself. After one such session, they relax outside with ice pops. Mika remarks on how good the new treat is, and Yuto agrees. But his attention is drawn to the way she eats it, and he stares intently. She catches his gaze and, with a playful blush, asks why he's looking at her like that, leaving him speechless once more. She reflects on her recent progress, feeling that the gym has made her mentally strong. Where she once would have run from anything painful, she now feels resolved to face whatever comes her way. Her mental growth is a necessary step for Yuto's conquest, though he notes the process is unfolding differently than it did in the game. His thoughts are interrupted by a message from Mika, cheerfully asking if he wants to spar tomorrow, to which he seems uncertain. The next day at school, he overhears a group of girls gossiping. They mock Mika, calling her an idiot with bad taste for rejecting a popular boy named Toshi. One of them vows to teach her a lesson. Yuto recognizes this scenario. Just like in the game, Mika rejecting a popular classmate has made other girls hold a grudge against her, but he questions how his own conquest as a villain fits into this. As class ends, some male students notice Mika is already gone, her bag missing as well. They wonder where to go as they prepare to head home. His expression hardening, Yuto receives a directive on his phone. It's a simple command. It's 3. Look for her inside the school. Elsewhere, the blonde girl from the gossiping group and her friends corner someone. She aggressively demands to know what they're trying to pull, confirming she heard that Hawaii rejected Toshi. The target of their aggression is Mika. Stealing herself, she declares that she is done running away from their insults and glares. She states plainly that she rejected the boy simply because she doesn't like him. Her response infuriates the bullies. They accuse her of seducing Toshi and stringing him along just for the thrill of rejecting him, calling her an ugly bitch. Mika calmly retorts that it has nothing to do with them, and that she would never do something so unfaithful. Enraged, the blonde bully slaps Mika hard across the face. She screams that Mika is getting cocky and that her defiant expression is hilarious. She throws another punch, but this time Mika dodges. As the fist flies past, Mika realizes the attack lacks proper form and power. A thought crystallizes. The defensive techniques Aki taught her can be used here to face an opponent and protect herself. The bully, furious at being dodged, vows to keep the punches coming. She beams, proud that her training paid off in a real fight. But as she expresses her relief to Yuto, he storms past her, shouting at the bullies. The blonde girl retorts that Mika is the strongest heroine who all the guys fall for, and that she should know her place. His confrontation only enrages the bully further. Declaring that they're being taken for idiots, she produces a knife, threatening to gouge out his eyes and feed them to the fish. Yuto stares in disbelief, questioning why she would bring a weapon to school. Suddenly, a set of choices materializes before him, a familiar game-like interface. He has 4 options: sacrifice himself, dodge, apologize, or hit her. He understands immediately that with his life on the line, he cannot afford to make the wrong choice. He quickly analyzes the situation. Apologizing is pointless, and dodging would put Mika in danger. Sacrificing himself is far too risky given his current circumstances. The process of elimination leaves him with only one path forward. Option 4, to hit her. He reflects on the meaning of this choice. For Mika, martial arts were something she enjoyed from the bottom of her heart, not a tool for violence. But for him, in this moment, the choice to fight is one where he must risk everything. With his decision made, he acts. He lunges forward, declaring he'll straighten out their guts. A swift, powerful motion sends the knife flying from the bully's hand, her face a mask of shock and disbelief. His decisive action terrifies the group of bullies, who immediately shriek apologies and flee the scene. He glares after them, warning that while they didn't hit Mika, they should try to understand why he did, and that next time, he'll make sure they can never look in a mirror again. After the confrontation, he and Mika sit together. She thanks him for saving her, admitting that she was incredibly scared but was able to face them because she had his moral support. Internally, Yuto registers a profound sense of accomplishment. He has finally cleared Mika's route. A system notification appears, displaying Makako Hawaii's affection level at 80. He's puzzled, as he thought it would be at 100, the ending. Mika then turns to him, blushing, and confesses that she wants to fall in love with him even more. She stands before him, now dressed in boxing gear, and issues a challenge. He must prove he is stronger than her to make her fall for him completely. Yuto understands now. This fight is the final event needed to reach 100 affection. He accepts. She questions Yudo's passivity, asking if he intends to just be her sandbag. Realizing he held back against the bullies just for her, she understands he's saving his strength for this fight. With a determined cry of his nickname, Aki, she lunges forward, ready to attack. He stands his ground, his expression hardening with resolve. As her gloved fists fly towards him, he declares with unwavering conviction that he would never strike the girl he loves, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. His heartfelt declaration stops her in her tracks. A system notification confirms her affection level has reached its maximum. Overwhelmed with emotion, she looks at him with tears welling in her eyes and confesses her love, promising to give him all of her first times. She seeks confirmation, asking if he truly meant what he said. He affirms it without hesitation, telling her he loves her. She reciprocates the sentiment, adding that he is serious, kind, and strong, completely unlike the delinquent image he projects. Sometime later, as the bullies who had troubled her flee in terror, Mika, now in her school uniform, turns to Yudo with a bright, determined expression. She playfully warns him that she won't go easy on him in their next encounter. The next morning at school, she greets him with a cheerful morning, Aki. Shun, standing beside Yudo, is taken aback by the familiar address. Yudo internally reflects on how his body seemed to move on its own during their confrontation, and how much bolder Mika has become. He confirms to Shun that she did indeed call him by his nickname. As a notification confirms, he has properly conquered Makako Hawaii's route. He stares at his phone, which now shows his own status as Kanji Aku. With 3 heroines now conquered, he glances over at Mika, Yua, and Akira, and a cascade of questions floods his mind. He wonders about the true nature and purpose of this world, who created it, and what would happen if his life points were to reach 0. A surge of anger arises within him, directed at the unknown architect of this villain route, who forces him into deadly situations over and over again. Yudo Hatano's consciousness, now trapped within the body of the villainous character Kanji Aku, reflects on his ordeal. To escape the death loops of this challenging world, a dating simulation called Hyperschool Flares T, he had to conquer all the heroines. He has already succeeded with 3, Akira, Tomasada, Elena Hiriazumi, and Makako Hawaii. With his past conquest behind him, he believed only one target remained, the upbeat and peppy Yua Minamoto. As he approaches the school, he sees Akira greeting someone, just as Yua appears with a cheerful wink and a peace sign. He considers her profile. Yua is the archetypal childhood friend, but her bright personality seems reserved only for the game's protagonist. In front of others, her social awkwardness surfaces. A glance at his system interface confirms this. Her affection level towards him is at -100, and her communication skills are abysmal. Her behavior shifts dramatically inside classroom to Shun Ogasawara approaches, apologizing for sleeping in and missing their walk to school. Yua, blushing, dismisses his apology, thinking to herself that this interaction is perfectly in line with the game's plot, solidifying her role as a lovable heroine. As Yua enjoys the moment, Elena Hiriazumi, sitting nearby, asks Yudo what he is whispering about. He brushes it off, but she presses on, asking if Minamoto acts so familiarly with him as well. Elena admits she has never spoken to her. She continues her thought, a hand covering her mouth in realization. Now that she considers it, she has only ever seen Yua speaking with Ogasawara, admitting she never paid much attention before. Her observation reinforces Yudo's plan. Since the game is written from Shun's point of view, Yua appears bubbly, but objectively, she is a loner. He decides to conquer her using this loner mode approach. He checks his stats, noting they increased after winning over Mika, but his intelligence and communication skills remain low. He doubts Yua will notice. With renewed determination, he declares it's time to conquer the last heroine. Resolved, he approaches Yua directly, asking if she and Ogasawara are dating. The question throws her into a panic. She stammers that they are not, that they are just friends, and apologizes profusely. Yudo internally notes her overly polite language as proof of her poor conversational skills, a classic trait of teasing childhood friends in games. Yua lets out a mortified shriek. Her panicked reaction signals that he has successfully triggered her story route. A set of 4 dialogue options appears before him, a familiar game mechanic. He observes that she truly acts like a different person when not in front of Shun. He analyzes the choices. With her affection so low, options 2 and 3 are out of character. Option 4 seems too villainous. He settles on the first choice, hoping that validating her loner side will aid his conquest. But as he makes his selection, Yua covers her face in shame, whispering that she hates herself. From across the room, Shun calls out, telling Yudo to stop bothering her. Her distress summons Shun Ogasawara, who brandishes a baseball bat with furious intensity. He stands between Yua and Yudo, roaring that he'll make anyone who hurts her pay. Caught completely off guard, Yudo realizes with a jolt that Shun, the supposed protagonist, has a shockingly short temper. The world fades to black, and he jolts awake in his own bed, head throbbing. A wave of relief washes over him as he confirms he's back in his house, revived safely once more. A familiar anxiety surfaces, the fear that one of these times he won't be able to come back. As he contemplates his failure, a familiar interface appears. He acknowledges that his previous attempts were wrong and decides to try a new tactic. From the list of options, he selects the fourth choice, call for a friend. His choice takes effect back in the classroom. Yudo calls out for help, and Akira Tomasada turns to face him with a pleasant smile, asking what's wrong. He immediately understands that she is the friend the system summoned. He quickly explains the situation, but Akira seems puzzled by his use of the word friend. She clarifies that she only approached because he looked like he was in trouble. Flustered, Yudo attempts to summarize the incident involving Yua Minamoto. After listening, Akira offers her assessment of Aku to Yua. She remarks that despite his scary looks, he's a respectable and dependable person who is good at taking care of people, though perhaps a bit of a busybody. Yua listens quietly, taking in the unexpected praise. Seizing the opportunity, Yudo encourages Yua to get along with him as well, not just Ogasawara, promising that school would be more fun. He welcomes her to rely on him. Yua recoils, however, calling herself worthless and pleading to be left alone. Yudo internally notes that having Akira as backup was the correct strategy. Later, alone in the school restroom, she mulls over Akira's words. She considers the possibility that Aku is, in fact, a dependable and caring person, despite being a busybody. Her thoughts are interrupted as she looks at a photo on her phone, a cheerful picture of herself with Shun. She concedes that it's unusual for Akira to speak so highly of someone, but reassures herself that as long as she has Shun, everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Yudo stands outside a modest apartment complex, observing it from a distance. He confirms that this is Yua's home, just as the plot suggested, which means her family is likely quite poor. He had found the key. The way to conquer Yua Minamoto was through her family. Since her parents' divorce, she had been living with her mother and two younger siblings. With her mother often away at work, Yua was the one who cared for them. To someone like the protagonist, she might just seem like a bubbly, positive girl who was good at taking care of people. But to him, as the villain, her family structure was a vulnerability to be analyzed and exploited. With this in mind, he spotted his targets, Yua's little sister, Hana, and her little brother, Yuki. He knew Yua had her guard up around him, so he decided his best approach was to win over these two first. He approached them with a wide grin, falsely introducing himself as Kanji Aku, a friend of their sister. The intensity of his smile was too much. He could see he was scaring them. He realized he had half-assed his approach, but he had anticipated this possibility and prepared a trump card. His trump card was a wafer card from the wildly popular anime, Shiny Fairies. The children's eyes widened in amazement at the sight of the character Kirin. He knelt down to their level, musing aloud that since he had two of the cards, he might as well throw one away. Seeing their crestfallen faces, he quickly changed his tune, offering the card to Hana. He proposed they become friends, suggesting it would delight their sister. Overjoyed, Hana accepted the gift with a loud thanks. The children's eyes lit up, exclaiming that they must be dreaming to see so many wafers. He knew their family's financial situation was tight, preventing them from ever asking for such treats. Seizing the opportunity, he invited them to play in the park, an offer they eagerly accepted. Their games filled the park with noise as they played, shouting things like sparkly attack and playfully taunting one another. Meanwhile, Yua returned from her shopping trip, her bicycle basket full. She mentally planned her evening meal, deciding to cook the half-priced items first. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of her siblings' laughter, and she looked over, puzzled. She stopped, her eyes widening in disbelief. There were Yuki and Hana, laughing with more joy than she had ever seen, playfully clinging to the back of Kanji Aku. She watched them, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She hoped he hadn't said anything strange to her siblings, especially not the truth she worked so hard to conceal, that at school, she was a gloomy loner. The thought of them learning this was unbearable, as she always tried to be a cheerful older sister for them at home. The memory of a recent school day surfaced. Shun Ogasawara had approached her, noticing her distraction and asking what was on her mind. Nearby, Yudo held a ball as her siblings called out to him. Seeing she was preoccupied, Shun had suggested they hang out another time, and she had quietly agreed. Later, she had found Yudo and thanked him for playing with her siblings, her voice trembling as she asked if he had told them anything strange. He had simply smiled, reassuring her that everything was fine and that he had enjoyed himself. Overwhelmed with relief, she had bowed deeply. For Yudo, the situation was like a game. An interface presented him with several of Yua's secrets. He deduced that the one she feared most was her siblings discovering she had no friends at school. All the options seemed to be true, but this one felt like her greatest vulnerability. He had pressed the matter, asking if by something strange she meant the fact she had no friends. Yua flinched, defensively stammering that she and Shun were friends. But Yudo could see that his prodding was hurting her, and that he was deriving a strange satisfaction from it. That provocation, however, had an immediate and violent consequence. Enraged, Shun Ogasawara swung a metal bat directly at Yudo's head, roaring that he wouldn't forgive anyone who hurt Yua. He declared that the three of them were as precious as family. Stunned, Yudo cried out, trying to explain that he had simply chosen an option presented to him. The blow left him reeling. Later, in bed, his head throbbed with pain. He reflected that Ogasawara's willingness to attack someone so viciously was extreme, even for a game character. His life points had dropped by 20, a stark reminder to be more careful. As he recovered, He considered Yua's situation more deeply. He realized she wasn't truly a loner, but rather a shy person. It was a nuance that was difficult to grasp in the original game. The game's interface had laid out her vulnerabilities. He knew she was kind and cared deeply for her family. Therefore, the truth that would hurt her most would be one that her siblings discovered. He decided to skip past the obvious options. Facing her again, with Shun standing guard, he made his move. He bypassed the other secrets and asked about the fourth option, the fact that they didn't have a father. Yua froze, her eyes wide with shock as she stammered, confirming he had struck upon her deepest, most painful secret. She closes her eyes in relief, thanking them for their discretion. Yua explains to her younger siblings, Hana and Yuki, that she lied to the other children, telling them their father was just working away from home. She asks Yudo and Shun to please keep it that way, feeling that she made the correct choice. As she and her siblings walk away down the street, Shun waves and calls out his goodbyes. Yudo echoes the sentiment, watching them depart. He pulls out his phone, a smirk forming on his face. A notification for Yua Minamoto shows her affection score is now at -80, but he sees this as progress. He notes to himself that some of the minus points have gone down, meaning he's advancing in his quest. His thoughts crystallize. He understands that the key to winning over Yua isn't her status as a loner at school, but her family situation. She told a kind lie to protect her siblings from the truth about their father. With this realization, he knows what he must do next. The following day at school, he approaches Yua with a wide, cheerful grin, remarking on how happy she acts in front of her siblings. Without preamble, he declares that she should become friends with him. Stunned and flustered, Yua stammers that she can't and tries to flee, claiming she just remembered something. Yudo immediately calls her out, pointing out her obvious lie. As she stands frozen, Shun walks up, asking what's happening since class is about to start. Yua internally questions Yudo's motives, wondering what good could possibly come from being his friend. She decides she needs Shun to understand the situation and turns to him, about to ask for his thoughts. Her question trails off as she looks at him, a blush dusting her cheeks. She finds herself lost in thought, pondering what friends truly are. She muses that friendships are relationships that are supposed to be built naturally. From a distance, Yudo watches them, acknowledging that Yua finds Shun dependable. His expression darkens as he internally curses Shun, calling him a flirtatious jerk who will pay for his actions. He realizes that Shun's affection points with Yua are already high. It's only a matter of time before their bond evolves from childhood friends to lovers. He concludes that his own conquest is doomed unless he can make Yua develop feelings for him before that happens. Looking at his phone, he sees Yua's affection level is a mere 45. He decides he can't waste time on this roadblock. Now that it has come to this, he can't be picky about his methods. A new resolve hardens within him as he declares that Kananai-chan is here. He presents another box of wafers to the delighted children, who cheer loudly. Having successfully integrated himself with Yua's younger siblings, he helps them open the snacks. Hana excitedly shows off a special card she found, while the others agree that he's lucky and make plans to play together. Watching from a distance, Yua expresses her surprise to Shun. She remarks that she never expected Hana and Yuki to get along so well with Aku. As her ball bounces away, Yuki looks toward it. Yudo immediately volunteers to retrieve it for the boy. Yua continues to watch, a thoughtful expression on her face. She can't help but wonder why her siblings seem to be having much more fun playing with him than they do with her. Suddenly, a stark premonition floods his mind. An accident is about to happen. A system interface appears in his consciousness, presenting him with 4 distinct choices on how to proceed. He foresees a terrible outcome, Yuki being run over. The thought of choosing incorrectly is terrifying, but he knows he cannot hesitate. With grim determination, he decides he must save the boy, no matter the cost. The vision becomes reality. A large truck barrels down the road, directly toward Yuki, who stands frozen in its path. From the sidewalk, Yua and Shun scream his name in absolute terror. Time seems to slow as both Yudo and Yuki let out horrified screams. In a burst of speed, Yudo lunges forward, tackling the small boy and pushing him out of the truck's path in the nick of time. He holds Yuki tight as they tumble across the pavement, landing safely on the side of the road. With the danger past, Yudo sternly scolds the crying Yuki, warning him that he could have died. Shun approaches with Yuki in his arms, thanking Yudo and agreeing that the boy needs to be reprimanded. Watching them, Yua's entire perception shifts. She had thought Aku was a nasty person, but now she sees him as genuinely good. A blush creeps onto her face as she wonders about his true character. She thanks him for his actions and makes 2 requests: that he play with her siblings again, and that he not mention their family situation to the children. She also asks him to act as he usually does at school. Yudo readily agrees to her terms. He glances at his phone, noting that her affection level has risen to 20. He realizes that her siblings were the key he needed and steels his resolve to raise her affection even further. His resolve put into action, Yudo has since become a regular visitor at the Minamoto household, playing with Yua's siblings. Despite these frequent visits, he grows frustrated, realizing her affection level has stalled completely. As the children, Hana and Yuki, vie for his attention, Yua suddenly appears from the kitchen, wearing an apron over her school uniform and holding a ladle. Yudo is momentarily stunned by the sight, finding the combination of her bubbly personality, clumsiness, and cooking skills to be an irresistible mix. She shyly asks him if he would like to stay and eat dinner with them. The unexpected invitation catches Yudo completely off guard. He quickly recovers, realizing this must be the breakthrough he's been working towards. With a smile, he accepts her offer, telling her he'd be happy to join them if it's not a bother. A steaming plate of curry is set before him at the dinner table. As the children eat with delight, Yua explains that she prepared it on the sweeter side for them. He takes a bite and compliments the meal, noting that while it's been some time since he's had sweet curry, hers is very good. Yua's cheeks flush at his praise. As he looks at her, she glances away, a bashful expression on her face. As Yudo prepares to leave, he thanks Yua and her younger sibling for the meal. The two children, Hana and Yuki, immediately begin to tease their older sister, asking if she likes Kananai-chan. A flustered Yua vehemently denies it, shushing them and telling them to get ready for their bath. Later, while relaxing in the bath, she reflects on the day. It occurs to her that she's never cooked for June before. She recalls how much Yudo seemed to enjoy her food, and though she hadn't wanted to get close to him at first, she now finds herself wanting him to eat her cooking again. She smiles, thinking about how dependable he is and how good he is at taking care of people. The next day at school, Yudo sits with Yua on a bench. He remarks that it must be tough for her, acting like a mother every day, but she dismisses it as her normal life. He suggests she should try doing something for herself, like her classmates do. Internally, he resolves to be more aggressive in his conquest. He asks if he can sit next to her, and a blushing Yua agrees. As he tries to figure out how to change their relationship, a strange interface appears before him, presenting 4 choices for Yua's future: housekeeper, tennis club, idol, or streamer. He stares at the options, confused. The accompanying tips, mentioning a maid uniform, a loner idol, and internet virality, only deepen his bewilderment, leaving him unable to discern the correct path. Yua, unaware of his dilemma, daydreams about the possibilities. She imagines herself as a singer, a housekeeper, a streamer, and a tennis player. To her, all of the options seem appealing, and while she'd like to try them all, she finds herself especially curious about one in particular. Yudo decides to suggest the tennis club, reasoning that it suits her good reflexes and could help her make new friends. Yua, however, recoils at the thought. Imagining the boisterous, extrovert girls of the club, she declares it's absolutely impossible. Her strong, negative reaction catches Yudo off guard, and as he processes it, a small rock falls from somewhere above. Suddenly, a large flower pot plummets from the sky, directly towards Yua. Yudo shouts in horror as Yua cries out in fear. From a window above, a voice calls down, asking if a flower pot fell. Yua's friends, witnessing the event, suspect it might be the work of someone named Awarama. That night, Yudo lies in bed, tormented by the day's events. He realizes his life force has decreased significantly, now at 40 out of 100. He berates himself, concluding that nothing good ever comes from being consumed by lust. He understands that while he is making progress, one more mistake could doom him completely. He thinks back on the girls he has conquered so far, remembering that the choices that made them happy were always the correct ones. He feels a renewed sense of determination, believing that if he can just get it right this time, everything will be fine. His focus returns to the list of choices. He analyzes option 3, idol. He reasons that if it works out, Yua could make money, overcome her shyness, and gain confidence. It is the most difficult path, but with that change, she might even fulfill her desire to make new friends. He proposes an idea to Yua. She should become an idol. He points out her natural cuteness and good reflexes as assets. Yua is taken aback by the sudden suggestion, protesting that she has no experience with singing or dancing and believes a roly-poly girl like her couldn't possibly succeed. He reassures her, explaining that becoming an idol could be the very thing that helps her overcome her shyness, lack of confidence, and loneliness. She quietly considers his words, a flicker of hope in her eyes as she wonders if it's truly possible. Her contemplation is shattered when Yudo suddenly begins taking pictures of her. She reacts with shock and outrage, demanding to know why he's taking photos without permission. He, however, is already planning ahead, convinced her pictures are good enough for an open audition. Several days later, he smugly presents his phone to Yua. The screen displays a notification. She has passed the first screening of the open audition. He offers a cheerful congratulations, but Yua is incensed, demanding to know why he did it without her permission and commenting on his bizarrely confident demeanor. Her anger gives way to worry as she considers the trouble this might cause her family. Yudo brushes off her concerns, confidently stating that her loner trait is her only drawback and that she has great potential. He declares his plan to transform her into a cool, talented older sister who can sing and dance, all to impress Hana and Yuki. He leans in close, his voice filled with conviction as he insists she won't cause any trouble. To prove his point, he mentions another student idol, HEROINE, and declares that Hana and Yuki will be ecstatic. Yua is completely overwhelmed by his passionate outburst. She tries to refuse, citing her responsibility to make dinner, but he is undeterred. With a determined grin, he announces that the second audition requires a singing and dancing performance. He appoints himself her producer, promising to forge her into the strongest idol and scheduling their special training to begin right after school. He He even offers to help with her chores later. Their training commences. Yua's first attempt at karaoke yields a surprisingly high score of 97, impressing Yudo, who admits she's better than he expected. Though she wonders if the score is a mistake, he urges her to be confident in her skill. They practiced singing and dancing relentlessly until the day of the audition, with him coaching her to use her good reflexes and maintain a smile to overcome her shyness. Taking a break by a vending machine, she finally asks him why he is going to such lengths to help her. He answers simply, stating that it's because she is his friend. Yua quietly accepts his reason. He then adds that he can see how much she enjoys it when she acts like an idol. He reveals an old app on his phone, showing her a members-only April Fool's stream for a channel called Idol Yua Master. He explains that this is proof she has it in her, and that she should have confidence for her siblings' sake. On the day of the audition, she stands before the venue, overwhelmed by the sheer number of people in line. Yudo offers final words of encouragement, telling her to give it her best and perform just as they practiced. Steeling herself, she agrees and walks toward the entrance. She stood backstage, listening to the muffled sounds from stage. Yudo, smiling warmly, offered some final words of encouragement. He told her that if she got nervous, she should think about her family, Hana and Yuki, and sing. He added that she could even think of him as a friend. Internally, Yua thought he was a weirdo, but his words seemed to steady her. Alone for a moment before her performance, clad in her stage outfit, she felt the nerves creeping in. She hoped her training would be enough, and that this would make Hana and Yuki happy. Clinging to his advice, she resolved to believe in what Aku had told her. With that newfound resolve, she burst onto the stage. Bathed in the bright lights, she sang with an infectious energy, a dazzling smile on her face as she captivated both the audience and the judges. Her performance was a resounding success. Overwhelmed with emotion, she could barely process the news that she had passed the audition. From the sidelines, Yudo cheered her victory. As they celebrated, another girl in a school uniform approached them, calling out to Yua. The girl explained that she had also been at the audition, but had failed. She asked, with a hopeful smile, if Yua was the one who had passed. Yua, caught off guard, stammered in response. The girl's excitement was genuine. She praised Yua, explaining how incredibly tough the competition was. An announcement had stated that only a few were chosen from 500 contestants, and the next round would be the final one. Yudo, observing the interaction, hoped this positive experience would help Yua grow, and he wished the other girl luck for her own future. Later, Yua brought up the next challenge. She explained to Yudo that the final audition included a swimsuit contest, but she didn't own a cute one. With some hesitation, she asked if he would go shopping with her. After a moment of surprise, Yudo readily agreed, telling her to leave it to him. A relieved Yua thanked him. He took her to a clothing store, where she was immediately overwhelmed by the vast selection of cute swimsuits. She fretted aloud, wondering if anything would fit her self-perceived roly-poly figure. Yudo calmly reassured her, dismissing her concern and confidently stating they would find a swimsuit that would look great on her. His reassurance did little to calm her racing mind. She analyzed the situation, realizing that by inviting him, she had taken a proactive step, a sign of her growing confidence for the audition. Yet, despite this positive development, a nagging feeling in her gut told her something wasn't quite right. The conversation shifted, and he began complimenting her everyday fashion sense, insisting her casual clothes were also cute. Yua, completely flustered, begged him to stop, finding the praise too embarrassing. Meanwhile, Yudo reflected internally that the conversation was proceeding smoothly, confirming he'd made the right choice. He steeled himself, knowing the next part was the finale, and his choice would determine the result. He watched as Yua considered the swimsuits before her. She clutched her shirt, blushing slightly, and admitted that yes, there was some that caught her eye. She took a selection into the fitting room. A moment later, her voice called out from behind the curtain, asking if he could come take a look. Though she felt embarrassed, she still wanted his opinion. From his side, Yudo eagerly agreed. Stepping out, she revealed her choice. He was immediately struck by the sight, declaring it was the one for sure. It was, he thought, incredibly sexy. His emphatic approval was all she needed. She decided on that swimsuit. As she stood there, a wave of newfound confidence washed over her. She recalled her past fear of showing herself in front of people, but now, with Aku by her side, she felt she could do anything. A thought bloomed in her mind. Perhaps he was the source of this courage. His own thoughts were focused on a different kind of progress. He checked his phone, observing that Yua's affection level had climbed to 80. He surmised it was due to his praise, but noted that the level wasn't maxed out, which meant his task was not yet complete. He considered the upcoming audition with strategic optimism. He believed her impressive figure would give her a significant advantage. Success would not only build her confidence, but also ease her family's financial burdens, allowing her to become a source of pride for her siblings. Seeing only bright sides, he prayed for her success. When the day finally arrived, he watched from the audience as she took the stage. Yua stood confidently, introducing herself as contestant number 422. From his seat, Yudo felt a surge of relief, thankful that friends were permitted to watch. He noted with pride that her shyness hadn't kicked in and silently urged her to give it her all. He wasn't the only one impressed. The young women next to him murmured in admiration, one noting how cute Yua was and mentioning a rumor that there had been 2,000 applicants. The other gasped at the number. Overhearing them, Yudo smiled, The fact that Yua had made it this far was an incredible achievement. His smile faded as the gravity of the competition set in. He watched other contestants get called, acknowledging that compared to some, Yua might seem to be lacking. But to him, she was the heroine of this story. With all his focus, he silently begged for her to be chosen. As the final contestant was presented and the audition came to a close, the tension became unbearable. Yua stood in line with the other finalists on stage. Down in the audience, the pressure finally got to Yudo. He gripped his head in frustration, wondering why this shitty game had him so completely engrossed. He wanders through a hallway, trying to find the exit and figure out what to say to Yua. Suddenly, he realizes he's in an area that might be restricted to staff. He stops upon hearing voices nearby. Peeking around a corner, he sees two men talking and wonders if they are the judges. He overhears one of them remarking on a contestant's potential. The conversation takes a lewd turn. The men speculate that high school girls, especially contestant number 422, are promiscuous, crudely commenting on her bombshell body. Yudo's expression hardens as he listens in disgust. The judge with light hair admits he didn't choose her on purpose. He explains his plan to make her wait in the green room and then proposition her, believing she's just an ignorant brat seeking validation. As they notice Yudo, his face is contorted with rage. He furiously confronts them, shouting that they're wrong. He tells them that Yua works tirelessly every day after school to care for her siblings, cooking, bathing them, and putting them to bed. The world around him transforms into a familiar interface, presenting him with 4 options for how to proceed. He can beg, ignore the situation, explain the truth, or simply hit the man. He realizes this must be the final set of choices. He scoffs, deciding he doesn't care if his life points drop to 0. If the correct choice is one that will make the heroine cry, then he wants no part of such a twisted game. He decisively selects the 4th option, hit him since he got pissed off. With a guttural cry, he lunges and strikes the light-haired judge squarely in the face. The man is sent flying as onlookers cry out in shock. Standing over his victim, Yudo snarls, warning the filthy dirtbag to never appear before Yua again. Later, outside the building, he reflects on his actions. Despite the likely repercussions, he feels a grim certainty that he made the right call. He reasons that such a corrupt audition would have only amplified Yua's worst traits. Just then, Yua herself appears, looking crestfallen. She apologizes to him, saying she wasn't good enough and shouldn't have attempted the challenge, leaving him speechless. Tears streamed down Yua's face as she sobbed, apologizing profusely for failing the audition despite all the help he had given her. He gently took her hands, reassuring her that she had done wonderfully, especially given the large number of contestants. He insisted she wasn't a roly-poly, and then gestured for her to look at something. She looked up to see 2 other girls from the audition approaching. They called out to her, waving and praising her performance. They told her she worked hard, and it was amazing she got so close, which left Yua flustered as she thanked them for the encouragement. Her eyes, still shimmering with tears, widened slightly as she considered their words. A small part of her began to believe that perhaps it was true. As this realization dawned on her, a notification appeared on his phone. The Way system displayed Yua Minamoto's profile, her affection level having finally reached 100. With newfound resolve, Yua turned to him. She confessed that thanks to Aku, every day had become fun. She explained that her feelings for him were different from those for a friend, and that before she knew it, she had started wanting to be with him more. She blushed, her voice faltering as she struggled to voice the final, most important part of her realization. Finally, with a bright, determined smile, she looked him in the eye and declared, "I love you, Aku." Overwhelmed, he stammered back that he loved her too. Yua closed her eyes, blushing deeply as he leaned in. The next morning, Yudo sat on his bed, musing that he was getting used to his villainous role. Meanwhile, at school, a transformed Yua excitedly discussed a music video with her friends. They remarked on her newfound confidence, noting she was now a super positive Yua. A system notification confirmed her status, conquered, complete. She spotted him arriving and ran over, greeting him cheerfully. She then wondered aloud why she had lost her memories, as this should have been the second time this happened. He knew this was a regular occurrence. Undeterred, she announced that she and the girls might try the idol audition again, and that she was counting on his help. He readily agreed, promising to raise her into the best idol she could be. Yudo Hatano reflects on his progress. He has now successfully conquered all 4 of the game's heroines: Akira Tamasaki, Elena Hiriazumi, Makako Hawaii, and Yua Minamoto. With his objective seemingly complete, he wishes to return to his former world, but for some unknown reason, the path back remains closed. His contemplation is interrupted by an unexpected beep from his phone, drawing his curious gaze. On the screen, a new interface has appeared, displaying a startling message: to the second stage. Below it, a prominent start button pulses, leaving him to wonder what this new development could possibly be. In the teacher's office, Yudo Hatano, in the body of Kanji Aku, is given startling news. A teacher informs him that he is not permitted to go on the upcoming school trip. Stunned, he demands an explanation, his mind reeling from the unexpected obstacle. He reflects on his progress, thinking he had managed to conquer all the heroines, only to discover that a second stage of this strange game had just appeared before him. With a decisive press, a finger activates the start button, initiating this new phase. He wonders if this truly marks the beginning of the second stage. The stage was set for one of the most popular events from the original game, a 4-day, 3-night school trip to Okinawa. He had envisioned going to the beach and the aquarium with the girls. He had held high hopes, imagining the second stage would begin with this trip, perhaps watching the sunset from a beachside cafe. But as it turned out, reality was far different. The truth of his situation was far more mundane. Akira Tomisada understood immediately, summarizing that he couldn't go on the trip because he hadn't paid the required 12,000 yen fee. With a sigh, he confirmed her assessment. He slumped over his desk in despair, dramatically declaring he had lost the will to live. Elena Hiraizumi chided him for his theatrics over such a small amount. Akira, however, tried to cheer him up, promising to buy souvenirs for him. Touched, he could only think that he would pay if he had the money. His dramatic display was met with a playful offer from Yua Minamoto, who presented a 100 yen coin as a loan. He yelled at her to quit teasing. Just then, Mikamo Hawaii arrived with good news. She had checked with the teacher and confirmed he could still go if he paid the money within the next 2 weeks. This news gave him a glimmer of hope, which Mikamo followed up with a practical suggestion. What about getting a part-time job? The idea hung in the air as he nervously considered it. He considered his options, wondering if he could really make 12,000 yen in just 2 weeks by getting a part-time job. Just then, a voice offered a solution, claiming to know the perfect place for him. The suggestion came from Elena, who proposed he work at her family's resort hotel. She explained that her father had mentioned they were short-staffed. Realizing that working for a friend's family might make things easier, he eagerly accepted the offer, determined to work hard and join everyone in Okinawa. Elena promised to inform her father. Thanks to Elena's connection, he was able to skip school and begin working immediately. For 2 weeks, including Golden Week, he would be a full-time employee at the hotel's restaurant. The work was demanding and he had much to learn, but the job provided him with meals and a place to stay in the dorms. While on the job, a coworker approached, complimenting him on being a skilled newcomer. She asked his name, noting he was a high school student. He introduced himself as Kanji Aku, explaining he was taking a break from school. His coworker then introduced herself as Mihiro, age 21. He was slightly taken aback by her directness. She leaned in suddenly, her chest pressing close. Mihiro teased him, accusing him of staring and calling him cute for it. Flustered, he could only stammer in response. His capabilities, however, quickly changed her impression. She watched in amazement as he effortlessly carried a towering stack of plates, wondering aloud how a person could manage so many at once. He demonstrated other talents as well. While serving a family, he presented a napkin folded into the shape of a rabbit, a small gesture of service that delighted their young child. The family thanked him warmly. From a distance, Mihiro observed, realizing he possessed practical skills that went beyond any training manual. Elena, also watching, felt a sense of satisfaction, thinking that her advice to him about applying unconventional techniques had been sound. Mihiro smiled to herself. The contrast between his youthful appearance and his surprising competence was wonderful, she thought. Things were certainly going to get fun. Later that night, he collapsed onto his bed in the dorm, utterly exhausted. The work was tiring, but he only had to endure it for 11 more days. As he resolved to get to bed, a sharp knock echoed from his door. He opens the door to find Mihiro standing there. She greets him cheerfully, explaining that the bath in her room is broken. Seeing her dressed in only a short robe, he internally remarks on her revealing attire. Despite his surprise, he stammers that he doesn't mind and invites her in. As she uses his shower, he sits on the edge of his bed, the reality of the situation sinking in. Mihiro is in his room. His mind races. He reflects on how obstacles have always appeared just before he could experience a lucky, intimate encounter. The thought that this might finally be his chance crosses his mind, but he quickly resolves to stay on guard, reminding himself it's only his first day. Moments later, she emerges fresh from the shower, thanking him warmly. To his shock, she sits down right next to him on the bed, prompting him to silently question her proximity. She cracks open a canned beverage and asks if he had any trouble during his first day. He assures her everything was fine, though his flustered gaze betrays his nervousness. Noticing his discomfort, she teasingly asks if he's nervous, calling it cute. Leaning in until her lips are almost touching his ear, she whispers a promise to do anything she can to help if he ever has a problem. The intimate gesture leaves him completely stunned. After her startling offer, he bows his head deeply, earnestly promising to work hard and not be a burden. Amused by his strange reaction, she agrees they should both give it their all again the next day. As the evening winds down, a crucial thought surfaces in his mind. He remembers the game, after-school flairist, and realizes with certainty that a conquerable character named Mihiro never existed within. He recalls that she was a minor character, not part of the main story, but existing merely for plot purposes. The mental effort, combined with the day's exhaustion, overwhelms him. He decides to put the thoughts aside and finally get some sleep. His Sunday at work was interrupted by the arrival of 4 familiar faces. Yua Minamoto waved enthusiastically as she, Akira Tomisada, Mikamo Hawaii, and Elena Hiraizumi took a seat, with Akira noting that he seemed to be working hard. He approached their table, formally welcoming Elena and offering a menu before leaning in to whisper, asking why they had all come. Elena, flustered, insisted she was only there to ensure he didn't cause any problems and embarrass her, as she was the one who secured this job for him. Yua chimed in, revealing that Elena had actually been very worried. Mikamo then added her own words of concern, her expression soft. She acknowledged how tough it must be to work all day and encouraged him to confide in her if anything was on his mind, assuring him she was there to listen. Following her sentiment, Yua brightly presented a bag of homemade cookies. She explained they were refreshments for him to enjoy during his breaks, proudly declaring that she had baked them especially for him. Akira, in turn, commented that the uniform looked great on him. She then added a piece of advice. Since his looks left something to be desired, he should be sure to compensate with excellent manners. Despite the slight jab, he found her presence as soothing as ever. Elena, however, grew defensive, her cheeks flushing. She insisted she wasn't like the others and was only there to intervene if he caused trouble for the staff. In response, he simply promised that he was grateful to her and would give it his all. He then returned to his duties, presenting them with an elaborate, multi-tiered platter of desserts and pastries. He apologized for the wait as the girls gasped in awe at the impressive spread. Their eyes widened at the sight. Mikamo exclaimed how lovely it all looked, and Akira, with a gentle smile, agreed that it appeared delicious. Elena, equally impressed, pointed out that the desserts were limited edition menu items. Yua, overcome with excitement, declared them adorable and quickly took out her phone to capture a picture. As they began to eat, their delight was palpable. Mikamo and Yua savored the taste, exclaiming how good it was. Akira calmly noted the excellent quality of the black tea, while Elena encouraged everyone not to hold back. Watching them from a distance, he simply told them to enjoy their meal. Lying in bed, Yudo Hatano let out a sigh of exhaustion. The day had been draining, as usual, but he was surprised by how pleased the heroines had been with their outing. As he rested, he checked his phone, reading through their messages. They praised the cake and the black tea, with one wondering if he could even appreciate the care that went into making it. He realized that once he conquered the heroines, they began to interact with him just as they did in the original game. This realization solidified his resolve. His eyes narrowed with determination as he decided he would get to Okinawa, one way or another. For now, he would focus on working his hardest tomorrow. The next day, he put that determination into practice at his part-time job. The work was tough, but things were going smoothly. He had grown accustomed to the tasks, making fewer mistakes, and felt he was getting along well with his co-worker, Mihiro. His good mood was bolstered by more messages from the heroines, all cheering him on. They told him to be careful with his health, to give it his all, and wished him the best of luck. One even playfully threatened to cut his pay if he slacked off. He felt their support, strengthening his desire to keep going and pull through. While his days were productive, his nights presented a different challenge. He always wanted to go to bed as soon as he got off work, but recently, Mihiro had started coming over to his apartment for a drink. That evening was no different, as she appeared at his door with a cheerful greeting. Once inside, she made herself comfortable, enjoying a can of beer. As Yudo held his own drink, he found himself staring, wondering if she would ever do something about the revealing outfits she always wore. She caught his gaze and decided to tease him. Leaning forward, she asked him what he does when he feels horny, and if he plays with himself. His straightforward, flustered reaction sent her into a fit of laughter. She called him innocent and playfully questioned if he was the type of person who asks older women such direct questions. He reeled from her directness. Leaning closer, she whispered her own answer directly into his ear. She does it by herself. The confession left him utterly shocked. Before he could recover, she made another suggestion. They should go to the bathhouse together. Yudo was horrified, thinking there was no way this was a good idea and that he would surely die if he went into a bath with her. Mihiro, however, was nonchalant, reminding him that it was already midnight and he should hurry up, take a bath, and then leave. He found himself unable to refuse Mihiro's drunken invitation and joined her in the bath, learning that staff were permitted to use it after midnight. Resolved to get through the awkward situation quickly, he listened as she cheerfully told him it was time to get undressed. As he hesitated, she cornered him with a playful threat, wondering aloud what would happen if she screamed. The implication was clear. Others would rush in, and he would surely lose his job. Trapped by her words, he endured the strange sensation as she began washing his back, his protests lost in a flustered plea for her to just get over with. She leaned in close, her voice a whisper as she posed a question. Was she using a towel, her hands, or something else to wash him? The sudden, shocking realization of what was pressed against his back left him stammering. Overwhelmed, he scrambled away, shouting for a break as he fled the room. Mihiro watched him go, a look of surprise on her face as she quietly noted his escape. The encounter left him restless. Back in his room, sleep would not come. He checked his phone, finding messages of encouragement from the heroines for his final day of work. They wished him luck and praised his dedication. As he read their kind words, a new notification appeared, a message from Mihiro. Her message was an apology for her earlier behavior. He quickly typed a reply, assuring her he was just surprised and apologizing in turn for running away. As he sent it, he reflected on his time with Mihiro. Though she was certainly a handful, he admitted to himself that he enjoyed her peppy, fun-loving nature and didn't truly mind being led on by her. His final day at the restaurant arrived, and the shift concluded without any further incident. He worked diligently, serving customers while Mihiro attended to her own duties nearby. Later, back in his room, he counted his earnings from the job. To his surprise, the total came to 14,000 yen. He knocked on the door, only for it to be thrown open by an ecstatic Mihiro. She cheered loudly, celebrating that she could now go on the school trip. With boundless energy, she declared that Okinawa and her youth awaited. Seeing him, she held up 2 grocery bags, announcing that since it was his last day, they should have a wrap-up party. He thought it sounded like a good idea and readily agreed. Inside, they sat together as Mihiro encouraged him to eat as much as he wanted. They raised their drinks in a toast. He noted with some relief that she was acting normal again, concluding she must have simply been hammered the day before. Later, as Mihiro lay on the bed with a flushed face, she pleaded with him not to quit, saying it would be lonely without him. Sitting beside her, he gently reminded her that he appreciated the sentiment, but his job was only ever temporary. She murmured that school was boring anyway, and that she was only working to make a lot of money. Her words made him reflect. He conceded she might be right, but his own path was different. He had to go to school to escape this world, even if it meant dying many more times. It wasn't about avoiding boredom, but escaping the unreasonable, traumatic experiences of his past. His train of thought was broken when Mihiro leaned against him. She confessed that goofing around with him after work was very fun, calling him nice and kind. He was visibly startled by her sudden closeness and candid words. She continued, suggesting they be together more often, promising she would make him forget all the unpleasant things in his life. Turning away slightly, she whispered with a smile, "I'm so happy." Her words left him utterly confused. He could only ask what she meant. In response, she turned to face him, her eyes welling with tears and her cheeks flushed. With heartfelt sincerity, she confessed, "I'm saying that I like you." Her advance is becoming more direct. Yudo questions if she is being serious. She confirms that she is, stating she wouldn't have acted so boldly in the bath otherwise. She leans over him, confessing that she found him cool from the very first moment they met, which is why she kept visiting his room. Hearing his earlier confession has made her incredibly happy. Her voice softens as she asks him to stay with her forever. Placing her hand over his, she promises to do anything he wishes if he agrees to be with her. His mind races as he is presented with a critical choice: stop or stay with her. He contemplates the second option, realizing that this path might save him from future suffering. He reflects that no matter how much effort he puts in with the others, he can't even get a single kiss, and an opportunity like this may never come again. His thoughts drift to the girls, Elena, Yua, Akira, and Mikamo, all cheering him on. A notification appears on his phone, a message from Elena. He acknowledges that he already has their support, but it feels impossible. The stage is being set for him to save them in 10 years, a plan that feels nonsensical in the present moment. With renewed conviction, he makes his decision. He cannot betray them, not after they have cheered for him so hard. He chooses to stop. He pulls away and apologizes. Confused, Mihiro asks what's wrong, telling him there's no need to hold back. He offers a gentle, apologetic smile. He is very sorry, he explains, but there are people he simply cannot forget. The tension broken, they now sit apart on the bed. Mihiro acknowledges his earnestness, remarking that she was prepared for him to go through with it. Since things have come to this, she suggests they drink the night away and that he stay with her until sunrise. He agrees. Sometime later, at school, Yudo stands in the teacher's office. A teacher confirms his payment is complete and that he can now go on the trip. Overjoyed, he throws his fist in the air with a triumphant shout. He thought of the girls he was determined to protect. Yua Minamoto, with her cheerful wave, Akira Tomasada, with her gentle smile, Elena Hiriazumi, her arms crossed but a soft look on her face, and Mikamo Hawaii, standing beside them. The thought of them and the upcoming trip brought a wide, confident smile to his face. His excitement could barely be contained as a single thought echoed in his mind. He was coming for Okinawa. From inside his room, the morning light filtered through the blinds, signaling the start of a new day and the beginning of his journey.